In a blink, night had fallen in the bedroom. Rans was sitting on the bed, focused on his work. Outside the bedroom door, the silhouette of the fishing cat appeared at that moment. Leysa held onto the doorframe and peeked his head inside. His expression seemed to be asking the human, "It's late. Why are you still working instead of sleeping?" Because the merman's gaze was so obvious, Rans, who was working, quickly noticed him. The Black Panther doctor stopped what he was doing, turned his head towards the door, and asked Leysa, "Is something wrong?" Rans asked, but Leysa didn't want to answer. The little fish carefully observed the Black Panther doctor's expression. Seeing his gentle face, the fish boldly inched his way into the room. As he crept in, the fish thought to himself, he doesn't seem to have any sense of territory at all. The fish walked in just like this, and he's not even angry. That's what Leysa thought. And before Rans could react, he immediately pounced onto the bed. He spread his arms and legs, taking over the entire bed. Just occupying the bed wasn't enough. The happy little fishing cat gleefully tested the springiness of the mattress. He flopped and bounced around like a fish out of water. A merman's strength is no small matter. As soon as he thrashed a few times, the panther doctor, sitting next to him, felt the bed shake violently. Anyone who didn't know better would think an earthquake was about to hit. The panther broke into a sweat and turned to look at the little fish, a look of resignation on his face as he said, "Leysa, I'm writing a document needed for school. Please stop fooling around." Leysa, who was enjoying the comfort of the big bed, finally stopped when he heard what Rans said. He turned his head and curiously asked, "Is school fun? Are you nervous because you have to go to school tomorrow?" Rans looked at Leysa and gently reassured the fishing cat, "It's okay. I work at the school too. If you need anything, you can come find me anytime." As he said this, Rans noticed a small round dot on Leysa's fin-like ear. He thought it was an earring, so he reached out, pointed to it, and said, "Oh right. Wearing earrings to school is still a bit." While he was talking, the panther doctor actually took the opportunity to touch the fish's ear. Ears are a sensitive part of a merman. The moment he was touched, goosebumps appeared all over Leysa's body. Without a second thought, the fish immediately swung his hand and slapped away the doctor's mischievous hand. The consequence of teasing the fish too much was that the Black Panther doctor's hand was slapped, swollen by the little fish, and his leg also hit the edge of the computer desk, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. He quickly yelped an apology. "Whoa, I forgot you can't touch a merman's ears." By the time he remembered, it was too late. The Black Panther grimaced in pain, his eyes wide as he shivered, bending over to clutch his knee. While rubbing his leg, he didn't forget to warn, "When you go to school, you absolutely cannot do that to your classmates and teachers, okay?" Leysa, having slapped him instinctively, felt sorry seeing the doctor in so much pain. He immediately reached out to pat the poor guy's back. There, may the pain fly away." As the child patted his back for a moment, he noticed a dried liquid stain on the back of Rans's shirt. His curious fingers couldn't help but pick at it. As soon as he touched it, the little troublemaker fish made a disgusted face and complained on the spot, "Dirty snot." Rans was speechless at the accusation. "Where did you get snot from? This is egg white. Weren't you the one who smeared it on me? I totally forgot about this." Wearing an old shirt and then being called dirty by his crush, the Black Panther doctor was hurt both emotionally and physically. Finally, unable to cry, he climbed off the bed, preparing to change his shirt. Leysa sat still on the bed, watching Rans's figure. He saw the doctor take off his shirt, revealing a well-defined, muscular back, which was very beautiful. Dr. Rans didn't notice Leysa watching him. At that moment, he was still feeling down about the long road ahead in educating the fish, which made him feel quite dejected. Rans sighed as he opened the wardrobe to get another shirt. After he finished changing, he turned around and saw the little fish curiously looking at the computer mouse. He immediately explained, "That's a mouse. It's hard to explain, isn't it? A mouse." Leysa instinctively repeated his words. However, as the child looked up, his eyes fell upon the panther man's bulging chest muscles, causing the words he wanted to say to get stuck in his throat. In a sense, chest muscles could also be considered mice, a pun on muscles, and this pair of mice was truly shocking to the fish. Seeing Leysa suddenly open his mouth wide while talking, with an expression like he'd just seen something shocking, and his eyes staring fixedly at his chest, Rand started to sweat. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Suddenly, "I want to drink some milk." Leysa, while climbing off the bed, said this fragmented sentence, leaving the panther man with a giant question mark over his head. He just stared at someone's chest and now he wants to drink milk? This little fish is really something else. Leysa didn't care what anyone thought. The child just ran off to heat up some milk. While waiting for the microwave to run, he even stood beside it, cheering happily. He's so incredibly innocent and adorable. The microwave finished heating in just a moment. By the time Leysa returned with a cup of hot milk, he saw Rans was actively exercising by doing push-ups. After seeing this scene, Leysa couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, completely confused. What is he doing? Why did he suddenly start pressing his face to the ground? The fish was that confused. However, he didn't dwell on the issue for long. The fish even thought, maybe I should add some weight for Rans. That way, he'll press down more firmly. No sooner said than done. Leysa suddenly, without a word, leaned over and lay sideways on Ranz's back. The fish's posture was incredibly aristocratic. He was even leisurely and calmly sipping his milk, as if he were lying on a chaise lounge. It was just too bad for the panther. Push-ups were already exhausting. Now, having to bear the extra weight of the fish, he was about to run out of breath. Ranz's whole body trembled. Sweat poured down like rain as he tried to call out Leysa's name. However, the fish didn't care. He just kept lying on Ranz's back, causing the young man to strain so hard that the veins on his arms bulged. The consequence of overexertion was that Ranz couldn't hold on for long before giving up. He fell face first onto the floor. And the little fish, because of his sudden movement, also stumbled and swayed. In the end, the cup of milk was also sent flying. Leysa, did you fall? The first thing Ranz cared about after faceplanting was not whether his own nose was broken, but the fish. The two of them were now lying on the floor. Ranz turned over and held Leysa facing him. The young man, with blushing cheeks, smiled and asked, "What's up with you tonight? Are you lonely being by yourself?" The panther was overthinking it. It's just that this little merman was bored with nothing to do. Plus, his way of thinking is different from humans, which is why he acted that way. It's not that he was lonely and needed someone to warm him up, but then again, the position the two of them were in was a bit too intimate. Oh my, they look so lovey-dovey. Leysa heard the doctor's question but didn't bother to answer. In his mind, right now, there was only the image of the strong chest muscles on Ranz's body, that's all. This person is clearly a man, so why is his chest so full? It made the fish crave milk just by looking. Leysa was confused and suspicious. He lowered his head, pressed close to Ranz's chest, and reached out to poke it. He had no idea that his actions were making a certain panther very happy. At this moment, the panther was happily thinking, is Leysa trying to be affectionate with me? He's so unbelievably cute, and all that stuff. Two different species who don't share a language living together, with two ways of thinking as far apart as heaven and earth. And yet, they managed to live together harmoniously, which is amazing. The Black Panther doctor was lost in thought, but because it was getting late, he had to pick Leysa up. He turned his head and told the fish to go to bed early so he could wake up for school tomorrow. Go to sleep. As soon as Leysa heard those two words, he immediately jumped up and took over Ranz's large bed. Hey, you want to sleep here? The Black Panther doctor watched the fish spread his arms and legs, even pulling his feet up to his chest, with a look on his face as if this was naturally his own bed, which made him start to sweat. In the end, he had no way of kicking his crush out, so he had to take his computer and sleep in the living room. Before he left, the fishing cat even made a face like a master ordering him to turn off the lights. Thanks a whole lot, fish. Ranz opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, he could only give a bitter smile and leave helplessly. As long as he goes to school obediently tomorrow, I'll just let him have his way tonight. The next day at school, in Li Yu's class, the teacher was standing at the podium, introducing a new student. Today, we have a new student in our class. He's quite special. He's not yet used to our language and daily routines. For us, he's mainly here to experience group life and socialize. The students below heard there was a new student and started putting their heads together, whispering amongst themselves. The teacher didn't quiet them down but continued with her instructions. Everyone, on a normal basis, remember to help and be more understanding of him. The teachers are all aware of his situation, so you all can rest assured. If there are any problems, just let a teacher know. Another transfer student? Is it a foreigner this time? Li Yu rested his chin on his desk, his round eyes curiously looking towards the front of the class, waiting to see who the new student would be. After the teacher finished explaining everything to note, she turned her head towards the door and called out, "Come in, student Leysa. Let's all give him a warm welcome." Leysa, wearing purple shoes, opened the door and entered. The moment his figure appeared, the surroundings seemed to light up. A sharp-eyed student quickly recognized him. Isn't he the merman from the aquarium last time? Yes, it really is him. Look at his ears. He really is a merman. The entire classroom suddenly became as noisy as a market. Everyone was talking at once, non-stop. Every voice was filled with astonishment. The teacher didn't tell the class to be quiet, but just turned her head to speak to Leysa. Student Leysa, introduce yourself. Do you understand? Introduce yourself. Of course he knew how to introduce himself. Before going to school, Ranz must have taught the little fish. Sure enough, as soon as the teacher finished speaking, Leysa quickly spoke up. I am Leysa. Hello everyone. Although he didn't speak very fluently, this short introduction was enough. Hey, is that all? Leysa thought it was enough, but the homeroom teacher was taken aback by the brief introduction. She was shocked. She looked at the fish beside her and broke into a sweat. Finally, seeing the displeased look on the fish's face, the teacher had no choice but to say, "Then please take the empty seat in the last row. From now on, that will be your seat." Lee, you didn't clearly hear what the teacher said after that because he was currently focused on the empty seat, with no one sitting next to him. According to what the teacher said, the beautiful merman from the aquarium would be sitting right next to him from now on. Just thinking about this made the little puppy sit up straight. He couldn't help but glance at the empty seat beside him. Wow, you really are the merman from the aquarium. When Liu saw Leysa approaching, and realized it was indeed the merman from the tank the other day, he immediately shot up and exclaimed in surprise. Leysa looked at the little puppy and also sweated as he stared for a moment. The fish was very nervous at that moment, because he remembered the puppy in front of him was the one who drew a picture of him at the aquarium last time. However, the drawing was very strange, and he even used it to threaten to turn him into a fish rice ball. Leysa was scared, but not for long. The fish turned to look at Liu and declared, "Doggy rice ball." "Doggy rice ball? Me?" Liu pointed at himself in shock. Inwardly, he thought, does he remember the rice ball I drew? Also, how did this merman know my family is of the dog lineage? The little puppy was afraid of being exposed. He immediately swallowed his panic. He raised his head, puffed out his chest, and said, "I'm Liu, and besides, I'm a wolf. Not a dog, a wolf." After saying that, the puppy even puckered his lips and howled a few times as if to prove it. Leysa watched Liu's silly antics and finally nodded to show he understood. The fish put his bag down on the desk, turned to face Liu, pointed at him and said, "Wolf dog rice ball." Liu became sensitive whenever he heard the word dog. He quickly straightened his tail fur and reached out to cover the other's mouth. "I told you I'm not a dog. Stop calling me that." Slap, asterisk. This involved physical contact. Without a second thought, Leysa quickly took a step back. He didn't forget to defend himself with the fish's familiar slap. "Why did you suddenly touch my face?" The little fish scolded silently, so Liu had no idea. Right now, the little puppy only knew that the fish's slap was quite strong. It made him cry out in pain. "Student Leysa, were you at the aquarium before? I even took a picture of you." "Student Leysa, where do you live now?" Liu got hit, and before he could even demand justice, he was pushed aside by other students rushing over. The crowd of curious students surrounded Leysa. They fired off questions like a machine gun, leaving the fish no time to answer. It also made Liu, standing to the side, feel extremely annoyed. The little dog pouted with frustration. He suddenly had a feeling that this fish was very hard to get along with. During class, the little puppy Liu wasn't worried about paying attention to the lecture, but was busy staring intently at the student. At the next desk, the puppy's eyes were full of judgment and complexity. Anyone looking would think he was contemplating something very mind-boggling, and indeed, Liu was racking his brain, because he felt that sitting next to the merman named Li was actually extremely stressful, even though he was just there to experience life. But sitting squarely on the desk during class, and brazenly turning his back to the blackboard, how come the teacher doesn't even care about that? The more little Liu looked, the more shocked he became. But the fish he was staring at remained calm, indifferent to the world. Right now, the fish was busy munching on a hamburger. Leysa was even thoughtful enough for his classmates while sneaking food in class. He was very considerate. Instead of eating openly, which would disturb others, the fish chose to turn his back to the blackboard. Eating like this, it's hard to know whether to praise him for being well-behaved and polite, or to scold him. The fish was being clueless. Leysa originally intended to quietly finish his food. However, he glanced to the side and saw the little puppy at the next desk with a drooling expression. So, the fish remembered Ranz's advice when he took him to school. Before, he had said to get along well with classmates. If you have something delicious, you must share it with everyone. Leysa is a good fish who knows how to listen, right? So as soon as he remembered this, he knew what he should do. Liu was still craving the food his classmate was eating, when suddenly, a paper bag was handed to him from the side, which startled him. Instinctively, the puppy reached out to take it, asking in a small voice, "For me?" he asked, but before Leysa could even nod, the little puppy had already opened the paper bag and taken out the food from inside. Looking at the handful of French fries, Liu couldn't help but feel overjoyed. He put one in his mouth and turned to happily thank the fish at the next desk. The little puppy, having food, forgot everything. He even forgot he was still in class. The French fry had just reached his mouth, and before he could even chew, he was startled by the teacher's yell. "Liu, why are you eating during class? If you don't want to listen to the lecture, go stand in the hallway." So much for being greedy. Talk about getting caught in the crossfire. The merman has special privileges, unlike an ordinary person like the little puppy, who didn't know his place. Now that he's been yelled at, he finally gets it. Liu was punished by the teacher to stand in the hallway. In the end, he could only obediently open the door and go outside. However, the bag of French fries went with the little puppy. Standing outside and munching made it less miserable. When the bell rang, ending the period, Liu had just finished munching on the last 2 French fries. He turned his head to look inside, heard the teacher dismiss the class, and told everyone to hurry up and go to lunch. Liu still hadn't had a chance to go back into the classroom when he saw a group of classmates surrounding Leysa. Walking out, the group was talking and laughing very cheerfully. They even volunteered to take Leysa to the cafeteria. However, the fish showed no reaction from beginning to end. He didn't even bother to smile once. The little puppy found his friends fawning very distasteful. However, The person who made him even angrier was Leysa. The puppy was punished for standing because that person gave him food, yet the fish didn't even bother to ask about him, not even a single word, and just walked straight past. How depressing. What are you thinking? If the fish doesn't care, let the fox care for the puppy. Who knows about others, but Liu only cares about the little puppy. He even has to find the puppy to eat lunch with him. Such a good friend. But the little puppy doesn't appreciate it. He even whined and asked Liu, "Why is the only one who cares about me a villain like you?" Hey, that stings. Liu was instantly furious. This ungrateful little puppy, someone cares about you, and you have this annoying attitude? The fox really wanted to hold the little puppy down and spank him, but that was just a thought. But instead of spanking him, Liu quickly grabbed the Kato, little puppy, and dragged him to the cafeteria to eat. Why aren't you eating? Did you eat too many french fries earlier and now you're full? Seeing Yu just poking his food tray with his chopsticks, Liu finally couldn't resist teasing him. As soon as he said that, Yu over here had already placed 2 dumplings on either side of his ears. He even cheerfully asked, "Leysa, do I look like him?" Cough, 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 cough. Asterisk. The cunning fox was caught off guard, and this scene made him cough violently. He turned his head away, thinking out of sight, out of mind, and said, "Don't play with your food." After his coughing fit subsided, Liu opened his water bottle and took a few sips. After drinking, he looked at the little puppy and asked, "You seem to be very interested in him, huh? He sits next to me. Of course I have to pay attention." After finishing his cosplay, Liu put the props into his mouth. While chewing, he said, "But I feel like his way of thinking is very hard to understand. And he's always so cold and expressionless. If you're that interested, how about trying to give him a little gift to build a good relationship?" Seeing the little puppy struggle, Liu offered him a suggestion. After speaking, he paused for a moment, then passed the fried shrimp from his meal to Liu. Seeing the shrimp, the little puppy's face immediately lit up with joy. He said thanks, then added, "That's a good idea. I'll go buy something after I finish eating." The fox, having acted as an advisor, now continued to offer a few more brilliant ideas. If you want to show goodwill, then you have to think from the other person's perspective. Buy something the other person likes. Something a fish would like? Liu pondered while chewing on a shrimp and rubbing his chin. Who knows what kind of gift he'll end up giving to Leysa this time. The lunch break passed by quickly. When it was time for Leysa to return to class, he found a gift box on his desk. As expected, it was pink with a cute bow. Liu, sitting next to him, had been nervous for a while. Now seeing Leysa walk in, he became even more restless. Earlier, he bought all the things that he thought a merman would like. He didn't know if they would be to Leysa's taste. While Liu was thinking, Leysa had already approached. At this moment, the fish was still confused by the thing sitting squarely on his desk. First, the merman reached out and tore the note stuck on the gift box off. On it were written a few lines. "Thanks for the french fries. This stuff is a gift for you. I hope you'll like it. Signed, Liu." The fish looked and looked, but the fish couldn't read, so even though he picked it up and looked it over, he still didn't know what the note said, and he certainly didn't know who had left the things on his desk. To Leysa, things he couldn't understand were no different from trash, so he tossed it away without a moment's hesitation. He lowered his head, preparing to open the box and see what was inside. Poor little puppy, he had no idea the merman couldn't read. Seeing his note being thrown away, the puppy couldn't help but gasp, his jaw dropping. The little puppy was shocked by the new student's attitude. But unfortunately, the other boy didn't notice his expression at all. Right now, Leysa was still confused, looking at the items inside the box. Indeed, Liu had given his friend 4 whole gifts: a fake fish, a bag of what looked like fish food, and also a book titled something like Ocean Civilization Records. Basically, because Leysa was illiterate, the fish had no idea what it was. He was just making a wild guess. Leysa had a preliminary judgment about the first 3 gifts. Only this small, round, red box was left. That, he didn't know what it was. The little fish curiously picked it up. Then, he was successfully startled by the swarming water fleas, squirming inside the box, which scared him out of his wits. The fish's face instantly turned pale. A cold sweat broke out all over him. "Ah! Ah!" Leysa jumped. When he could react again, he frantically threw the thing in his hand away. All the scales on his body stood on end from fear. The box of water fleas fell onto the desk. The impact caused the lid to pop open. The water and the swarm of fleas inside spilled out. The little red bugs crawled everywhere. You don't like this? I'm sorry." Seeing Leysa's reaction, Liu hurriedly and dejectedly ran over to apologize. Leysa moved the gift box away to avoid the water. Hearing Liu speak, the fish, understanding some but not all, frowned at him. "Thursday, this was from you?" Leysa looked warily at Liu. He didn't know why the little puppy would do this. He thought he must have done something to provoke his classmate, so he used those scary bugs to frighten him. Wow, this misunderstanding is huge. And you had no idea how to explain it properly. He cleaned up Leysa's desk while saying sadly, "I'm sorry, I just wanted to be on good terms with you." Whoa, that's messed up. Did you pour bugs on Leysa's desk? Isn't that bullying? What are you doing? Poor Leysa, the little puppy had just apologized, and the merman himself hadn't even said anything yet. But the fish's sycophants quickly showed up. They started to condemn him. Liu was intimidated by the aggressive students, which made him break out in a sweat. He stammered, trying to explain he had no ill intentions, but these classmates wouldn't listen at all. They even started shouting at him. What's your problem? Are you jealous that Leysa is more popular than you even though he just transferred? As if scolding him wasn't enough, one of the students forcefully shoved Liu, causing the little puppy to wince and cry out in pain. The kid, playing the role of a flower protector, had just pushed Liu when his wrist was grabbed by a stronger force. It made him grimace in pain. He turned his head to look, and saw that Liu was standing right beside him at some point. He glared fiercely, scaring the whole group. Accusing others of bullying, huh? What are you all doing right now? The fox said fiercely. Then, to maintain his own friendly image, the fox quickly changed his expression to a bright smile and said, You meant no harm. He just wanted to get on good terms with Leysa, but he chose the wrong gift. That's all. Although Liu was smiling brightly now, his scary expression from before made the three flower protectors tremble. Oh my god, every single one of them turned pale and broke into a sweat. They hurriedly apologized, said it was a misunderstanding, and quickly scurried away. I'm not seeing things, am I? Liu actually got angry? The girl with a crush was the most shocked of the group. She was still shaken by Liu's reaction earlier. The male student next to her was also scared. He secretly glanced at Liu and whispered. He seemed to have a really scary expression just now. The three kids ran off without looking back, leaving the merman standing there with his jaw dropped, completely bewildered. Liu was also utterly confused by that sudden change of face. Only Liu remained standing there with a gentle smile, looking perfectly friendly. Leysa looked at the group of classmates, then turned to look at Liu and Liu. The fish's head was full of question marks. The fish still hadn't processed any of what had just happened. What were all those people talking about? What's going on? I don't get it. Are all of you in a gang or something? You saw Leysa's confused and frightened expression and broke into a sweat, quickly apologizing again. I'm sorry. I'll help you clean up your desk right away. Liu, standing to the side, thought it wasn't a big deal. Once it was cleaned up and explained, everything would be back to normal. So he patted Liu's shoulder, indicating that he would go get a rag to wipe the table. The two had divided the tasks like that, but as soon as they turned to look, they saw the fish bolt out of the classroom door. This left them both shocked and confused. Wait, nobody did anything. Why did he suddenly run off? Through this incident, we can see that language barriers and racial differences can sometimes lead to disastrous misunderstandings. A hard day of studying and suffering through many blows passed. That evening, after returning from school, Leysa lay on the bed like a soulless, dead fish. More than half his spirit had flown away. He could only mutter uncomfortably, "Doctor, I'm sick." The poor fish was like that, but the Black Panther doctor showed no pity. Normally, he doted on the little merman, but when it came to studies, he was extremely strict. You're not sick. Hurry up and practice the letters and words you were taught today. That's the only way you can adapt to school sooner. Rand said this as he forcefully lifted the lying Leysa up. The merman was a salty fish, wanting to live a lazy life, but he wouldn't allow it. Why? Why do I have to study? Leysa tiredly opened his book and looked at it. The fish was normally quiet and rarely smiled. Now, seeing him so miserable was heartbreaking. Before, the Black Panther doctor had clearly lured the fish to live with him by promising a happy, healthy life. But now he was forcing the fish to go to school. It's true that men don't cherish what they have after they get it. It's been a few days, and you still hate school? Rand looked at Leysa's sullen face and felt very sorry for him. He had to resort to using sign language. He asked what had happened in class. You said before that you had a strange classmate, but you didn't elaborate. What's really going on? Did you have a conflict with someone? Leysa was so dejected that even his fins drooped. He turned to look at Rand and replied in sign language. I don't understand. Mermen aren't naturally social creatures, so it was very difficult for him to understand or to grasp the thoughts of his classmates. Leysa wanted to talk but was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Instead of saying he hated school, it was more accurate to say that he hated his own current state of helplessness. Speaking of class, Leysa was reminded of the strange atmosphere between him and Liu these past few days. Previously, Liu, putting bugs in the gift box, had indeed given him quite a scare, but seeing that the little puppy didn't seem to have any threatening intent towards him, Leysa didn't mind it anymore. It's just that since that incident, Liu had always been very wary of him. Every time he saw him, he would run far away. The little fish thought it was because the other classmates surrounding him had attacked Liu before, which was why the little puppy was so guarded. But on second thought, it seemed that those classmates were now even more afraid of Liu. That seemed more correct. The merman's thoughts became more and more tangled. But what exactly was the problem? He couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he thought. Rand watched him sit there, tied in knots. Although he didn't understand the whole story, he still tried to suggest, if you have a conflict with a classmate, you can think back to what happened between you at the very beginning. That might make it easier to figure out the reason. At first, Leysa only partially understood, but Ranz's words helped him see things more clearly. It's just that the beginning Ranz was talking about, and the beginning the little merman thought of were different, worlds apart. Just remembering their first meeting, and Li Yu's abstract drawing style, was enough to make the fish want to cover his face and cry. Could it be because I'm too ugly? This is just too painful. Dr. Ranz was startled when he heard the merman say that. He quickly broke into a sweat and waved his hands. Huh? There's no way that could be the reason. Dude, are you kidding? If a merman like this is called ugly, then how could ordinary people dare to go outside? Dr. Ranz was completely helpless against the little fish's train of thought. Besides, talking about these things now is useless. In the end, he returned to the original issue. We should still think about the matter at hand. Studying the new language well is the only way. You'll be able to communicate with others. By then, all these things will be resolved. Leysa saw the doctor push a stack of books in front of him, and for the resided in plant. Nth time that day, he wanted to let his fishy soul fly away for peace. Ranz of course knew very well that forcing Leysa to study was making things difficult for him, but he still had to be strict and push him because these were all things necessary for his future life. After all, I can't stay by your side forever like I am now. Leysa was extremely confused after hearing this. Before, when you adopted me, you said such sweet things. Now that we live together, you say we can't be together forever. Why can't we stay together forever? He understood that? Ranz was secretly startled. Initially, he hadn't expected Leysa to understand what he said. But unexpectedly, not only did he understand, he even questioned him back. It's just that right now, Leysa might not know it, but someday in the future, when he grows up and can live independently, of course, he won't need a guardian anymore. It's very hard to explain to you right now. The Black Panther doctor scratched his cheek awkwardly. His eyes darted to the side, clearly avoiding the issue. You probably don't even know what you're saying right now. This forever thing. As he said this, a suspicious blush appeared on Ranz's face. This Black Panther young man likes the fish that much. Hearing things about being together forever made him think some deep thoughts. Unless Leysa really did always want to be with him. But how could that be possible? He probably just doesn't understand what that means. Oh my god, who said Leysa doesn't understand? He even knows how to sing. Love in the heart, trust is forever, something like that. Oh my. The more the little fish sang, the redder the Black Panther doctor's face became. He's a grown man, yet he was being flustered by a silly fish, and he dared to say the merman didn't understand anything. Ranz really didn't expect Leysa to know how to sing love songs, but singing is one thing. But love, for a little merman like Leysa, was still too early. Dr. Ranz would absolutely not allow the fish to fall in love early. Whatever the doctor said, the doctor said. Leysa just kept on singing his part. Ranz watched the child singing and swaying beside him, and couldn't help but blush again. Leysa is pretty much grown up now. Perhaps later I should explain some knowledge in this area to him. Otherwise, when facing teachers and classmates, if he suddenly blurts out things like love, it will lead to a lot of trouble. In the blink of an eye, a night passed. The next day during PE class, the teacher saw that it wasn't raining yet, so he immediately gathered the students to prepare them for a before-expected three-legged race. Lee Yu had been playing ball and was exhausted. He was just about to take a break, but who knew the teacher would come up with another game? It made the puppy very dissatisfied. He's that old. How does he still have so much energy? As soon as the little puppy finished speaking, Liu, standing behind him, immediately said, "It's because you're too lazy." The two were talking over here. Occasionally, Li Yu would glance to the side. Over there was Li Xia, surrounded by a group of his flower protectors. As usual, the little puppy looked at the situation, too bored to even comment. This group just surrounds the merman all day. It makes it impossible for me to find a chance to talk to him alone. Just as Li Yu thought that, someone pulled his shoulder. He turned his head to look, and discovered it was the PE teacher. The teacher slung his arm around the shoulders of the little puppy and the cunning fox, smiling as he asked for a favor. "You two, go to the equipment room, and get me some leg ties and lots for dividing teams, okay?" "Sure." Since the teacher asked, the two kids of course obediently agreed. Very quickly, they made their way to the storage room. Because he had the height advantage, the cunning fox was in charge of looking for things up high, while the little puppy searched below. Since there was no one else in the storage room, Liu also asked about the situation. "You're so listless. You're not still thinking about Li Xia, are you? Are you guys still mad at each other?" "I don't know if you could call it being mad at each other," Li Yu replied dejectedly as he bent down to search. "I just haven't been able to find a chance to talk to him." "Oh, is that so?" The cunning fox searched for a while but found nothing, so he decisively stopped looking. He turned around, crossed his arms, looked at the little puppy and comforted him. "Don't worry, I think you'll get a chance to talk sooner or later." "What kind of comfort is that? So half-hearted. It's disgusting." Li Yu heard Liu's indifferent words and was completely repulsed. He looked up. He was planning to check a few more cardboard boxes, and if he couldn't find them, he'd go back outside. But as soon as he looked up, the puppy saw a piece of a leaf stuck in Liu's hair. "Hey, you have a leaf in your hair." "Li," Yu said as he reached out to take the leaf from Liu's hair. The little puppy's action was just casual, but in the eyes of the cunning fox, this action made him blush. Thanks. The fox had only been serious for a few minutes, and now he was back to his playful, teasing self. What a cliché flirting move. The little puppy heard him and wanted to hit him. He bonked the fox on the head. Who would flirt with you? You're not a girl. The puppy wouldn't flirt with the fox, but the fox would. Coincidentally, there was no one here. The fox's lecherous blood started to boil. He turned and trapped Liu between his arms. He gave a sly, enticing smile. Little puppy, I just noticed you have a leaf on you too. Really? Where? The naive Liu actually believed him. He even reached up to feel his own ears, looking for where the leaf might be. It's in your collar. It seems to have slipped inside. Quick, let me check for you. Liu spoke quickly, but his hands moved even faster. Before anything, the fox had already grabbed the little puppy's zipper and pulled his gym jacket down, preparing to give his classmate a thorough inspection. At first, Liu was fooled by him, but when he saw him pulling down his jacket, there was nothing left not to understand. He broke into a sweat and tightly grabbed the sleeve of the fox in front of him, angrily scolding him. If you're going to lie, could you please come up with a more believable excuse? Of course. Since you said so, puppy, then I won't be polite anymore. As soon as Liu finished speaking, his arm was grabbed by the cunning fox. Then, his whole body was pushed onto the mat behind him. At the same time, Liu said cheerfully, since we're already at it, let's be a little more direct. I feel like it's been a long time since I've collected my fee. Liu was pushed down onto the mat, unable to resist at all. Hearing the fox say that, the little puppy couldn't help but retort, but I already consider you 70% a good person. Can't this agreement be cancelled? After all, revealing my secret doesn't benefit you in any way. The little puppy had a point, but of course Liu wasn't going to let him go. What kind of good person is only 70%? For the rest, I might as well just be a bad person. Besides, this agreement doesn't have a time limit. Liu said that, then he bent down and started to suck his vitamins. The more he sniffed the puppy, the more addicted he became, and the more addicted he got, the longer he wanted to sniff. Liu was sniffed until his face turned red. He wanted to push him away but lacked the strength. In the end he could only shout, huh? At most, this has to end by graduation, right? How long are you going to blackmail me? He plans to blackmail you for life, little puppy. One misstep leads to a lifetime of regret. One lie and you're stuck for a whole lifetime. Of course, Liu didn't answer Liu's question right now. After getting his fill, he satisfyingly lifted his head and lectured, don't think so much. Focus on the matter at hand. Lately, I've learned a few ways to make the dog tribe happy. Hey! The cunning fox said as he reached out, preparing to make a move. Liu looked at his lecherous face, a giant question mark popping up in his head. At first, he didn't know what Liu meant, not until the other guy placed a hand on his head, stroking it while also offering praise. Good puppy, good puppy. Good you is the best, truly worthy of being a man among men, a king among carnivores. Whoa. Although calling him a man is a bit weird, Liu felt ecstatic after hearing it. The little puppy's face was flushed red. He opened his mouth to say something but was speechless. See? Aren't you very happy? Liu looked at his classmate's reaction, and knew right away his dog petting technique was working. So he kept at it, stroking him while constantly praising him, causing Liu to feel overjoyed. He couldn't help but wag his tail behind him non-stop. His pheromones started to be released too. As soon as Liu smelled the apple pie scent, he started to crave it. His hand moved down from his head, to fondle the little puppy's tail. The moment he touched it, Liu jumped. But before he could even struggle, Liu used his tall frame to embrace him. While inhaling the sweet apple pie scent, he also smiled and praised. Yu's performance has improved. You're so good. The little puppy, enjoying the petting but also feeling conflicted, hearing him murmur that, he couldn't help but scold back. You're so lame, bad guy. He cursed verbally, but, in reality, the puppy was high as a kite. A dog being petted. Is there any that doesn't feel good? Liu, while enjoying the pleasure of his race, also secretly gritted his teeth. I hate this body. Damn it. Surrendering to praise and petting is the fate of the dog species. I really can't accept this. Li, you said he couldn't accept it, but he was enjoying it through the suffering. He savored the stroking of the cunning fox. He looked at his resigned expression, and couldn't help but prop himself up and tease him playfully. It's all because your weaknesses are just too easy to exploit. What an infuriating thing to say. After hearing that, the little puppy was both angry and embarrassed. He grabbed Liu's collar, glared at him, and said loudly, you think you don't have any weaknesses? Liu refused to believe this cunning fox didn't have a weakness. He lunged forward, turning the tables and pinning Liu underneath him. His hand shot out with unerring accuracy, and grabbed the fox's big tail. He'd never touched it before, but now he realized how big the fox's tail was, and yet it was all just fluff inside. After squeezing it for a bit, the little puppy finally flattened the cunning fox's tail into a small pancake. Hey! If you think it's just fluff, then stop touching it. Liu started sweating as the little puppy touched him. Hearing his complaint, he quickly shouted back at him. But now that the tail was in the puppy's hands, there was no way he'd let go that easily. The more intensely Liu reacted, the more delighted Liu became. Ha! A fox is just like a dog. Doing this must be driving you wild, right? Doing this meant touching, squeezing, and scratching the tail. What furry animal doesn't like having its tail touched? Seeing Liu's red face was enough to know how much he was enjoying it. Are you still not done? Let go already. Why is it that you can touch other people's tails but I can't? You let go first. Liu and Liu, blushing, rolled around on the mat. Their hands were tightly gripping each other's tails, neither willing to give in to the other. The initially suggestive atmosphere had now turned into two kids, fighting to squeeze each other's tails, seeing who would give in to the pleasure first and surrender. It was truly a battle with an unpredictable outcome. Just as the two kids were still rolling around in the equipment room, the PE teacher, having waited too long, finally had to come looking for Liu. Li, you still haven't found the equipment? The teacher said as he slowly opened the equipment room door. Then, appearing before the teacher, were two students with disheveled clothes, giving an extremely serious, picture-perfect salute. Liu said, "Reporting, sir. Nothing was found." Liu followed up, "We really did try our best to find it." Liu looked okay. Aside from his jacket being a bit off his shoulder, everything else was relatively normal. But Liu, his pants weren't even fully pulled up. And yet he was pretending to give a military salute and everything. The teacher looked on and broke out in a sweat. What on earth were these two kids doing in here? I don't know, sir. Is it not here? All right then, hurry back to the field. The teacher was very confused, but he couldn't very well say much. Hearing that they couldn't find the items, he just went in to check one more time for show. In the end, he had to let Liu and the other go back to the field. Having escaped disaster, Liu and Liu looked at each other and broke out in a sweat. However, unlike Liu, who breathed a sigh of relief, Liu was still puffing his cheeks. He was holding a grudge about what happened earlier. It was all this perverted, cunning fox's fault. Otherwise, why would they have almost been seen by the teacher? They were just fooling around. But it was almost like being caught in the act. You just wait until next time. By the time the two kids returned to the athletic field, the teacher had already found the lots and leg ties and returned. The teacher gathered the students in one place, grinning as he announced for the kids to go to Liu to draw lots. Those who draw the same color and symbol will be on the same team. None of the students had any objections. One by one, they went up to draw lots. It was fine when the other students were picking, but when it was Liu's turn to reach over and pick, the cunning fox started playing tricks again. He turned his head and smiled at Liu. His eyes winked as his hand pushed another lot up high. His intention for the little puppy to pick this lot was crystal clear. Seeing the cunning look on Liu's face, Liu hesitated for a moment, not knowing whether he should pick the one he was signaling. What's this guy up to now? Is he trying to cheat so he and I are on the same team? But if so, that's fine too. After all, this guy runs fast. Li, you thought so. And decisively picked the lot. He brought it closer to see what symbol was on it. A purple moon. The little puppy had just finished looking at the symbol on this side, when Liu, next to him, quickly raised his hand. He called out in a loud voice, "Which student drew the purple moon?" The moment Liu shouted those words, Li, you sensed that something was wrong. But when Leysa, standing not too far away, held up a lot with a purple moon symbol, he knew, damn it, something was really wrong. So, this fox had been playing tricks all along, not to put the puppy on his team, but to pair the puppy up with the fish. When you heard him announce that he and Leysa were on the same team, the hairs on his body wanted to stand on end. That rotten fox. This is the chance to talk you mentioned earlier, isn't it? I don't even know if Leysa is mad at me or not. He might agree to be on my team, but in his heart, he's probably cursing that backstabbing Liu. But on the outside, Liu was desperately howdy, looking for someone to trade lots with. Hong, have you found a teammate yet? Sorry, I drew the same team as Liu. Poor Hong had been secretly set up by that devilish fox. At this point there was no one left for the little puppy to trade lots with. Looking at Liu's beaming face, plus his good luck wish, Liu only wished he could jump over and grab his tail, yanking it a few times, until it was completely bald. This was your plan too? You got a problem with that? Liu saw Liu was angry, but he wasn't scared. On the contrary, he just grinned and said, "This is a great opportunity to advance the feelings between you and Leysa." What advance feelings? The little puppy really wanted to argue back, but before he could say anything, the lot in his hand was taken by Leysa, who had approached. At some point, the little puppy was startled by the fish's action. Seeing him bend down to tie their legs together, he became even more flustered and asked, "Hey, do you know the rules of the race?" "Yeah, I do." The little merman's face was very smug right now. He tilted his head to the sky and replied confidently, "Isn't it just walking?" Since the fish said so, the little puppy could only accept his fate. What else could he do? Although it was still a bit awkward, he still turned to ask Leysa's opinion. "We need to coordinate. Is it okay to stick close together?" Okay. Leysa replied with few words. On the surface, it seemed fine, but in their hearts, the two little ones were overthinking things. Lot. Liu felt that since Leysa didn't mind being on a team with him, it meant he wasn't that angry at him, after all. At first, the little puppy thought Leysa didn't want to pay him any mind, at all. As for Leysa, the fish noticed the little puppy was tense, and thought to himself that he must still be bothered by what happened a few days ago. They were just teaming up, but they were overthinking it like crazy. However, the atmosphere right now was pretty harmonious. Just as they finished preparing over here, the teacher was already at the starting line, waving his hand and calling out, "Boys teams, hurry over here. The winning team won't have to run the 1,000 meters. There's a prize like that?" While Leysa was bewildered and confused, Liu clenched his fists, as if determined to win. However, that's easier said than done. Just looking at how difficult it was for the two of them to get to the starting line, it was clear that winning this time wouldn't be so easy. "Ready!" As soon as the boys gathered at the starting line, the teacher began to give the command. However, before the race could even begin, it started to rain from the sky. "It's raining!" Liu and Leysa both looked up at the sky. They hadn't been watching for long, when Liu's mischievous voice rang out from the side. "Ah, will this be okay? If Leysa gets wet, will his legs turn into a fishtail?" That mouth on the fox. He was such a liar. But Lee, you still fell for it. The little puppy was startled and couldn't help but ask back, "Huh? Is that true or not? Go, go." Before the words were even out, the teacher shouted, "Start," and so, before the little puppy could even react, Liu and A Hong had already dashed forward. The rest of the students also quickly took off running. Only Liu was still standing in place, angrily pointing after Liu and yelling, "Hey, that's against the rules. Stop trying to distract us." Leysa looked at the silly puppy and was at a loss for words, telling people they were distracting him by paying attention when it was clearly the little puppy himself who wasn't running, still standing there pointing and yelling at people. When would they ever reach the finish line? Liu also realized he had lost his temper. Finally, when he came to his senses, he immediately got his spirits up, clenched his fists, determined that this time, he would definitely win. Having determination is good, but this race requires teamwork. Yet the little puppy just charged ahead on his own. The consequences were predictable. He hadn't even started running yet, and the puppy had already taken a nasty fall, face planting right into the ground. The little merman, standing next to him, broke into a cold sweat watching this. This puppy classmate. Why did he just run off on his own, without letting anyone react? The fish was still fine, and was extremely confused. But seeing his friend fall, he couldn't just stand there and not help. In the end, the little merman had to bend down and help his friend up, even asking with concern. Liu had just face planted. Right now, there was no way he was okay. However, he wasn't seriously injured. As soon as Leysa helped him up, the puppy dejectedly told Leysa, "It's already started. This is a race. The fastest team wins. We won't have to run 1,000 meters. Fastest wins." Leysa, hearing his puppy friend explain the rules, who knows if he understood, but his face looked very confident. Then, the confident little fish directly scooped his puppy classmate under his arm and charged straight ahead. Leysa ran quite a fast. Carrying Lee, you didn't seem to tire him out at all. However, this made Liu feel even more uneasy. "Wait a minute, friend. This is against the rules. I have to feel like I'm participating too. This isn't okay, and that isn't right either." The puppy's fussiness left the little fish at a loss. "Fine, let's just go. No more running." He put the little puppy down as he wished. As soon as you stood up straight, he turned and said, "Let's do this. Follow my rhythm. Left, right, left." The little merman's face remained as confident as ever. He repeated left foot, right foot a few times like Liu, then nodded again to show he understood. But did he really understand? We'll have to see it in practice to know for sure. Left, right. After taking just 2 steps, the little puppy fell with a thud again. Clearly, the merman's understanding was different from what Liu meant. "It's my right, that's the right one." Leysa broke into a sweat hearing that. You saw his classmate didn't understand, so he planned to turn around. But as soon as he turned, it was Leysa's turn to be pulled down with a thud. And so, the race journey of a puppy and a fish seemed as arduous as the journey to the west. Every 2 steps, they'd fall with a thud. Every 3 steps, they'd both fall. At this rate, they probably wouldn't reach the finish line until next year. Seeing their complete lack of coordination, the PE teacher and the other students had their jaws on the floor. They all had the same thought. Is this a 3-legged race, or a roll to the finish line race? The 2 kids over here hadn't even gone halfway, and Liu and A Hong had already started a new lap. As they ran past each other, that backstabbing Liu cheered for his friend. "Keep going. After you finish this race, you two will be friends with no distance between you." "No distance between us, my foot!" Liu was so ticked off hearing that. "After this is over, we'll be 2 piles of flesh." He was done with this friend. The little puppy was furious, but he couldn't blame Liu either. In the end, it was because they had no coordination. Oh, whatever. Just being able to finish this race is good enough. At least it's not raining hard yet. Crack, speak of the devil. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a downpour that soaked them to the bone. The 2 teenagers couldn't run as it was, and now they were getting soaked by the rain. This wasn't a friends moving forward together situation. It was more like friends in misery together. The downpour wasn't a surprise, but when it was just a light rain, everyone could still manage to run. Now that it was pouring, the teacher didn't dare let the kids get soaked. He quickly called for everyone to run to the gym, to take shelter first. The students scattered, running for cover, but Li Yu and the other were still on the field. At this moment, Li Yu was still explaining to Leysa next to him, "The teacher means we don't have to race anymore. It's over. Go to the gym." The child was talking while pointing towards the gym. However, they wanted to go, but they forgot to untie the rope on their legs. As a result, as soon as the two turned, their legs got tangled, and they slipped and fell. One more time on the track. This fall looked pretty bad. Liu saw it and was shocked, quickly calling out, "Hey, Li Yu." The teacher and A Hong next to him also rushed to show their concern. "Are you guys okay?" The teacher saw the two of them. He immediately turned his head and said, "I'll go check on them. Liu, you're in charge of leading everyone into the gym." "Yes, sir." After the teacher gave his instructions, he quickly ran towards the fish and the puppy. The teacher took off his outer jacket to shield both of them from the rain. Seeing Li Xia's arm was bleeding, the teacher panicked and quickly said, "Oh no, your arm is bleeding. You two, hurry to the nurse's office. I'm going back to the gym to check on the other students first. Is that okay?" "Yes, sir." What else could they do at this point? Li Yu let out a long sigh. Finally, resigned to his fate, he took Li Xia to the nurse's office. "You go on ahead, sir. We know the way to the nurse's office." "Yes, okay." The teacher turned and headed towards the gym. Before he left, he didn't forget to add, "You two, take care of each other." And so, the little puppy eventually got the little fish to the nurse's office. He stood in front of the door, looked up at it, and complained, "Why are the school nurses always in meetings?" No wonder the puppy had a complaint, because on the door of the nurse's office, there was a piece of paper, a huge notice with a few words written on it. "This afternoon, the nurse's office staff will be in a meeting from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Let's wait a bit. It's almost 5 o'clock anyway." Li Yu and Li Xia turned and headed towards the stairs, sighing deeply as they walked. Talk about adding insult to injury. They fall, and then it rains. Just terrible luck. The two little ones sat on the steps, waiting. For a moment, the atmosphere sank into a dreadful silence. Li Yu sat like a good little boy, but not for long. He was so cold that he let out a huge sneeze. Compared to Li Yu, Li Xia was a fish, after all, so being in contact with water didn't affect him much. He saw the little puppy was cold, and kindly took off his own jacket and put it on him. Seeing the little puppy turn to look at him, the little fish could only slowly explain, "I'm not that cold." Li Yu looked at his classmate beside him, and said in a low voice, "Thanks." Although they had a misunderstanding before, it wasn't anything major. Now that Li Xia was treating him so gently, it made Li Yu reevaluate his merman classmate. Actually, he's very nice. Just as he thought that, Li Yu gathered all his courage to strike up a conversation with Li Xia. He scratched his cheek, carefully choosing his words, and said cautiously, "Were you still mad at me before? Why would I be angry?" Li Xia turned to look at Li Yu. Li Yu also turned to look at him. Then, both of them cluelessly said, "Huh?" A second later, both had question marks over their heads, completely confused. Just as the atmosphere fell into a second awkward silence, Liu's voice rang out from the side. "There you are. The PE teacher told me to come check. I happened to run into the school nurse, so I urged him to hurry back." Li Yu and Li Xia turned to look at the sound of Liu's voice. Sure enough, they saw Dr. Ranz walking beside him. Before the two could say anything, they heard Ranz ask, "Are you guys injured?" In the nurse's office, Ranz carefully bandaged Li Xia's arm, while listening to the kids explain what had happened. When he finished listening, Ranz couldn't help but sigh. So that's what happened between you two before. Is that why you were giving each other the cold shoulder? The misunderstanding was entirely due to the language barrier, and not understanding each other. And so, after bandaging Li Xia, Ranz used sign language to explain to the little merman, "Li, you just wanted to be friends with you, which is why he gave you a gift. Do you understand now?" "Huh? Sir, you can communicate with him using sign language? That's amazing." Li Xia hadn't even had a chance to reply yet, when Li Yu, lying on the bed, commented cheerfully. Following up on Li Yu's words, Li Yu also smiled and nodded in agreement. "That's right. This should help a lot now." Just as the two finished talking over here, Li Xia, opposite them, had already said, "I'm not angry." The fish couldn't say much, so the Black Panther doctor helped him. Translated into a longer sentence like this. "Actually, he noticed you've been avoiding him lately, so he was a little concerned. That's all in the past, so you don't need to worry about it anymore." The little puppy was overjoyed to hear that. "It's great that you don't hate me because of those gifts." "Li," you said as he scratched his head. All the initial misunderstanding was because he was too focused on the fact that Li Xia was a merman. Now, thinking back, in that situation, anyone who received a gift of water fleas like that would have been scared. A gift? Although the little merman was lazy, it's not that he didn't understand anything. Hearing the word gift, he quickly pulled out his backpack and showed it off happily. "Look, I like it. Thanks." It turned out that the fish Li Yu had given him last time was carefully hung on Li Xia's backpack. He brought it with him to school every day. The little puppy, Li Yu, seeing his desk mate cherish his gift, couldn't be happier. He grinned from ear to ear, so wide you couldn't see his eyes. Hee hee. I specially picked out this keychain. The color suits you perfectly, right? Yes. And just like that, with just one gift, the two little ones quickly became best friends. They even hugged each other cheerfully, looking just like two happy fools. Liu, seeing the little puppy make up with Leysa, finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, after sighing, he had another question. Why is Leysa's backpack in the nurse's office? The naive and straightforward Rans replied, without any suspicion. He put snacks and a sleeping bag inside, so the teacher temporarily confiscated it. After hearing that, Liu asked again, so how do you know all this, sir? Leysa and Liu, who were affectionately beside each other, hearing this part, both turned their heads and perked up their ears to listen in. But whether they understood or not, was up to fate. Faced with Liu's question, the Black Panther doctor cluelessly scratched his face and replied, huh? Because we live together. An unethical teacher living with a student? I never thought you were that kind of teacher, sir. Say what you will, but when it comes to eavesdropping and then criticizing people, Liu and Liu's expressions were exactly the same. It's true that people of the same kind end up together. With identical reactions like this, it would be strange if they didn't end up together in the future. Poor the doctor. Being condemned by two righteous students, he frantically waved his hands to explain, but they wouldn't believe him. No, it's not that. Right now, I am Leysa's guardian. Really? The cunning fox and the innocent little puppy, without planning it, stared intently at the teacher, while the little merman in question had no idea what was going on. The Black Panther teacher was getting goosebumps from their stares. He quickly explained this disastrous misunderstanding. To make it easier to take care of Leysa, I had him come to this school. Just as Rans finished speaking, the bell for class rang loudly in the hallway at the same time. The young man took that opportunity to quickly turn and change the subject. The next period is self-study, right? I'll call the homeroom teacher to let them know. You guys, you can just go home. The Black Panther doctor had tried so hard to change the subject, but the troublemaking students still wouldn't let it go. You said righteously, is this a bribe? So I'll keep quiet and not reveal your secret? That's a bit cheap, don't you think? Hearing the kid say that, Rand started sweating bullets. What bribe? Oh my god, this is terrible. When students are sick or injured, letting them go home early is standard procedure. But this matter, I hope you guys won't go spreading it around everywhere, okay? Liu saw the teacher was flustered, and quickly pointed to himself and said, Sir, what about me? I want to go home early too. In the end, it's unknown how they negotiated this matter, but both Liu and you were allowed to go home early. While the Panther doctor was on the phone with the homeroom teacher, Liu turned to say goodbye to his new friend, Leysa. Well, we're leaving first. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Leysa smiled and waved at the little puppy. After the two left, he turned back and sat down in the empty space on Rans's desk. The Black Panther doctor happened to finish his call. Thinking about what had happened, the young man couldn't help but let out a weary sigh. Did the alcohol sting a lot just now? Did you get hurt anywhere else? Are your knees okay? Even though Leysa was sitting on the desk, the Black Panther doctor didn't scold him. He just held the little fish's hand and asked with concern. Feeling his concern, Leysa lowered his head and glanced at him. He didn't pull his hand back and replied softly, I'm fine. The more the little fish said that, the more the Black Panther doctor blamed himself. The young man looked down at the little fish's injured hand, feeling terrible inside. I'm sorry. I forced you to come to school, but I didn't protect you well. He knew that after Leysa left the nearly sterile environment of the aquarium, facing the inevitable uncertainties and dangers, unavoidable, he would surely feel insecure. But the young man still made him go to school to interact with human society. Thinking back now, he truly felt immense self-blame. Although he wasn't great at expressing his feelings, Leysa wasn't a heartless fish either. How could he not feel Dr. Rans's concern? He looked down at the silent Black Panther for a long while, then suddenly asked, Are you very worried about me? Before Rans could answer Leysa's question, he reached out and placed his hand on the young man's head, gently stroking his hair and said, I'm very well. But Rans, who was suddenly being petted by a little fish, before he could even be surprised or react, heard Leysa say again, compared to fighting sharks, this is very good. Your fur is also very nice. The little merman originally just wanted to pat his head to comfort him a bit, but who knew the Black Panther doctor's hair was so soft and smooth? It made the fish a little addicted to stroking it. He kept his head down and stroked endlessly, unwilling to let go. Is that so? Rans, being petted by the little one until his face turned red, managed to reply, but in his heart, he was completely shocked. You have to fight sharks in the ocean? That's so scary. After panicking over these thoughts, Rans quickly grabbed Leysa's hand and pulled it down. I know, now behave. When class is over, we'll go home. Yes, go home. Leysa softly repeated those two words. His hand was held by the other, and he didn't bother to pull it back. School for today is over. The fish happily closed his eyes, enjoying the leisure time. Before going home, the Black Panther doctor saw him like this and smiled cheerfully, thinking to himself, It seems Lixia's personality is stronger than I thought. As long as he doesn't regret being taken out of the aquarium, then as a guardian, Rans can rest easy. Outside, the rain was still pouring. After leaving the nurse's office, Liu and Lu went to the restroom to change out of their wet clothes. Only then did they feel comfortable enough to prepare to go home. Liu asked, Liu, are you going straight home now? The little puppy really wanted to go home, but the heavy rain was making him feel quite lazy. That's right. How about we do something to kill some time? Wait for the rain to stop before we go. Liu took every opportunity he could. Hearing Liu was hesitant because of the rain, he used it as an excuse to try and take advantage of the little puppy. Liu's chin was grabbed by him, and the anger inside him began to boil over. However, before the puppy could even scold him, Liu had already leaned in close. As he got closer, he didn't forget to whisper, I want to ask for a little sniff of the puppy. Sniffing doggy vitamins like he was addicted to cigarettes or something. Liu was so mad when he heard that. He reached out to cover Liu's mouth. While pushing his face away, the little puppy scolded, Sniff my butt. Didn't you already get your sniff today? That time was just getting started when we were interrupted, wasn't it? This cunning fox took advantage of people and still dared to be so reasonable. The little puppy broke into a sweat at his aggrieved tone. He quickly turned his head to get away. Stay away from me. Someone might pass by here. That was something the fox wasn't worried about at all. Everyone is in self-study. Just be a little quiet and it'll be fine. After Liu said that, he reached out and hooked the little puppy's tie. Not only that, he also slyly licked his lips, looking as happy as if he were about to eat a delicious meal. Liu looked at his expression and was horrified. He immediately opened his mouth and yelled, You pervert. This is a public place. You're gradually escalating into a criminal. If you do that again, I'll block. I'll block. You'll do what? Bite someone? Hit someone? Or transfer schools and run away? Just as Liu asked this, his cheeks were pinched painfully by the puppy. He broke into a sweat and mumbled, Okay, let go of my face first, then you can threaten me. No way. Liu wasn't about to listen to him. Not only did he not let go, he even squeezed harder. While squeezing, the little one said, Then I'll transfer schools and see where you go to trick me. Liu? Just as the two kids were struggling, they heard the familiar voice of a third person nearby. Liu and Liu simultaneously turned their heads to look. As soon as they saw who it was, the two of them couldn't help but start sweating profusely again. How did you get hurt? Did he do something to you? The person who arrived was Liu's older brother. Seeing the two kids in a compromising position, he didn't think much of it. He just worriedly ran over to check on his younger brother. Seeing his brother, Liu started sweating even more than Liu. He timidly asked, Bro, why are you here? Li Hui circled his younger brother, inspecting him. While checking him over, he said, Rans told me you were hurt. Where are you hurt? I contacted your homeroom teacher, and as soon as you were done, I rushed over to pick you up. Immediately, the little puppy was being inspected all over by his brother, like a police officer, searching a criminal, which scared him. He quickly stammered an explanation. No, there's nothing. I just fell during PE class. Did the doctor exaggerate to you? I'm perfectly fine. Liu, who had been standing by like an invisible person, took the opportunity to chime in. Don't worry, big bro. Little Yu just has a few scrapes. After the two kids spoke, they both had the same thought. Normally, the school doctor seemed so gentle that they had forgotten he was the one responsible for reporting Li Yu's situation at school to Li Hui. This was a huge mistake. In the two kids' minds right now, the image of the Black Panther doctor had become more sinister than ever. I told Rans to report anything to me, otherwise, who knows what else might happen. Li Hui said to Li Yu, then turned his head to question the cunning fox beside him. Little, you just said you were tricking him. No wonder his mood has been so bad lately. These injuries are also related to you, aren't they? Oh my god. What an injustice. My friendship with your little brother has been rock solid these past few days. Liu was suffering but couldn't speak. He was about to open his mouth to explain, but had only said a few words, when Li Hui over there glared and cut him off. Enough! I've said it 3 times. How many times is this now? I don't want to hear your lies anymore. From now on, I will contact your homeroom teacher. Big bro is so fierce. Let him finish explaining. Before anything, he finished scolding him and then just dragged the little puppy away. Leaving the two kids without a chance to say a word, Liu watched the two figures leave, his face sullen as he let out a long sigh. Serves you right for always teasing your friend. If you're going to mess with your friend, find somewhere private. Daring to openly grope him in the hallway like that, you're lucky you didn't get a beating. Li Yu was dragged by his brother, all the way down, to the last step. Only then did he frantically try to explain. Being caught with Liu by his brother again, he was just afraid he'd be scolded when he got home. Bro, I really did fall during PE class. Don't let your imagination run wild. Li Yu explained. But Li Hui basically wasn't listening. He didn't even bother to turn his head, just kept holding his younger brother's hand, and walking straight ahead. I know you don't want to make me worry, so you don't say anything to me. This is all my fault for not realizing something was wrong sooner. Oh my god. The puppy's older brother is the overprotective type, plus his tendency to overthink things, and not wanting to listen to explanations. This combo is absolutely devastating. Hearing his older brother take all the blame, Li Yu was horrified. Bro, how can you blame yourself? It's not your fault. Even though the little puppy said that, his big bro didn't think so. He believed everything was his own fault. He had sworn to protect his younger brother well since they were little, but now things just kept happening to him. The more Li Hui thought, the more he blamed himself. He stopped walking, turned around, and grabbed Li Yu's shoulders, speaking seriously. Li Yu, I just hope nothing happens to you, and that you can go to school happily. If not, we can just transfer schools again. It's fine. I can definitely find you a better school. The little puppy, hearing these words, didn't know how to respond. He knew his older brother was worried about him, but being so serious all of a sudden was really freaking him out. When they were little, because their parents died early, a young Li Hui, besides taking care of himself, was also responsible for taking care of his younger brother. One day, Li Hui took Li Yu to play by the river near their house. While he was wading in the middle of the river catching fish, his younger brother Li Yu was sitting on the bank, waiting and playing, stacking stones to build a house. Catching fish requires a lot of patience. Li Hui stood in the river, not daring to move, not even a little, waiting for the fish to swim within his reach. However, while he was patient, the young Li Yu was not. The little boy, seeing his older brother taking too long to catch a fish, finally couldn't help but shout out to him. Bro, have you caught a fish yet? Bro, when are we gonna pick mushrooms? After waiting for so long, a fish finally swam into Li Hui's sights, but just one shout from his younger brother, and the fish in the water was scared away, disappearing without a trace. Annoyed, he turned to look at little Li Yu on the bank. Although not very angry, he still scolded. I told you not to make a sound. The fish got scared and swam away, see? Little Li Yu was at an age where he liked to run and jump around. He didn't have the same patience as his older brother. Hearing what Li Hui said, he immediately jumped up, waving his hands frantically at him. Then stop catching them, bro. Let's go pick mushrooms, bro. Li Hui lectured his younger brother, and then ignored the little puppy. Li Yu called and called, but his brother wouldn't listen. Finally, the puppy sulkily grabbed the basket beside him, pouted and huffed, thinking to himself, if you won't go, I'll go by myself. Yes, just like that, little Li Yu, without a word, grabbed his basket and ran off happily. Meanwhile, Li Hui was still patiently waiting for the fish from earlier to return, so he had no idea his younger brother had already run off. The long wait paid off with a deserving result. Before long, Li Hui quickly caught the fish that had been hiding from him earlier. He was just a child at the time, so he didn't have much strength. After catching the fish thrashed around so much that Li Hui fell into the river. However, he was determined to hold on to it and not let go. Finally, he successfully caught the fish, while also getting himself soaking wet. This achievement was worthy of praise, but when Li Hui happily turned back, excited to show off his catch to his younger brother, he realized his younger brother was gone. Li Yu? Li Hui's expression went from happy to questioning. Then, the older brother, terrified, threw away the fish he had worked so hard to catch. He screamed in fear and worry, his voice echoing through the forest. Li Yu, where did you go? A terrified Li Hui ran from the riverbank, shouting his younger brother's name. He searched all around, but all his efforts were in vain, because no matter how much he called, little Li, you didn't answer. Who knows where the troublemaking little brother ran off to? The more Li Hui ran around searching, the more worried he became. Tears streamed down his face. He couldn't help but think of scary things. Could his younger brother have been taken by bad people? The more Li Hui thought, the more scared he became. And the more scared he became, the more he cried. He ran all the way from the river back to the small village where they lived, ran to his grandparents' house, and, panting and worried, little Li Hui asked about Li Yu. Has Li Yu come home yet? The two elders were sitting inside, shucking corn. Hearing her grandson's question, the grandmother replied, confused, not yet. The grandfather, seeing his grandson's pale face, quickly asked with concern, what's wrong, little Hui? Li Hui was soaking wet. He was crying, his ears drooping pitifully. The little one sobbed, his voice trembling as he said, Li Yu, I lost him. The sky quickly grew dark. While the whole family was worriedly searching for Li Yu, the little boy was brought back home by a kind woman, driving a car. His grandparents and Li Hui quickly ran out to meet them. As soon as he saw his younger brother, Li Hui rushed over and hugged him tightly. His grandparents were now profusely thanking the other person. Thank you. You scared us to death. We finally found him. Thank goodness you brought him back. We really thank you so much. The kind woman waved her hand, indicating it was no big deal. This little one ran through the forest all by himself to the next village. It was just a coincidence that I ran into him. While the adults were talking, Li Hui was crying his eyes out, clutching his younger brother tightly. While crying, He didn't forget to apologize to Li Yu through his sobs. I'm sorry. The fault lay with the playful little puppy who wouldn't listen, but Li Hui was filled with self-blame for not protecting his younger brother well. Seeing her grandson crying so heartbrokenly, the grandmother couldn't help but feel pained and comfort him. It's okay now, little Hui. Your younger brother is fine. We found him, didn't we? The grandfather didn't blame Li Yu either, just spoke gently to the two little ones. Let's go home. From now on, don't run around, okay? Bro, little Li, Yu softly called out to his older brother. He was still young and didn't understand. He simply thought he was just going to pick mushrooms and would be home a little late, but he had no idea that leaving without a word had scared his older brother so badly. Li Hui still hadn't stopped crying. He cried while hugging his younger brother and muttering, Li Yu, it's all my fault. I didn't watch you carefully. Thank goodness you weren't taken by bad people. But, from now on, I will definitely be a better older brother. Furthermore, caring too much can become chaotic. From a young age, Li Hui had always sheltered his younger brother like this. Everything that happened to his younger brother, he would take upon himself, believing it was his own fault. Eventually, it turned into a situation where no matter what his younger brother did, he wanted to interfere. Love is a good thing, but sometimes, being too controlling can become suffocating. Like a chick watched too closely by its mother hen, when it's finally released from the flock, it doesn't know how to find food. When Li Hui woke up from his dream, there were still tears in the corners of his eyes. The childhood dream made the big puppy wake up feeling tired. Are you awake, bro? Li Yu, seeing his older brother rubbing his eyes uncomfortably, couldn't help but ask with concern. Were you so tired that you had a dream? I think I heard you mumbling in your sleep. You should go to your room and sleep. Seeing his older brother say nothing, Li Yu gently reminded him again. You can sleep in a little tomorrow. I can make breakfast myself. I won't be late for school. Bro? When Li Hui heard about school, though his whole body was tired, he still said, You still want to go to school? If you're being bullied, maybe you should take a few days off first. My colleague's child goes to the experimental high school nearby. I heard the management there is better. Bro, Li Yu cut his brother off. I don't need to transfer schools anymore. I can take good care of myself. Li Hui was listless. He rubbed his head and replied wearily, You told me the exact same thing a year ago. And what was the result? Do you know how scared I was when I saw you injured like that? I was almost scared to death. After a pause, the big brother puppy, with his ears drooping dejectedly, told Li Yu, If something happens to you again, I really won't be able to forgive myself. Please don't make me worry anymore, okay? Li Yu had never seen his older brother so tired. His ears, which were perked up, drooped limply after those words. He broke into a sweat, turned his head away, and muttered in a low voice, This time is different from the others. Anyway, can you let me think about it some more? Yes, okay. Li Hui turned to look at his younger brother and nodded in agreement. Take a few days to think about it. I'll look for a few more schools for you. Go to bed a little earlier. Okay. Li Yu sadly turned and went back to his room. The conversation between the two brothers still ended on a heavy note. The next day, the little puppy ran to class like the wind. He hastily opened the classroom door and stood outside, declaring loudly to the teacher, Reporting. I'm late. I'm sorry. Yes. Just as Li Yu finished speaking, the school bell rang at the same time. The teacher looked at the little pup, at a loss for words. Finally, he just sweat-dropped and managed a sentence. Talk about perfect timing. After class, Li Yu sat in his seat, watching Li Yu's retreating figure. For some reason, his heart felt a little heavy. Li Yu didn't notice his expression. He walked to his own seat. As he put his bag down, he wanted to cry his eyes out. Last night, he had confidently told his big brother not to worry about him, but in the end, he forgot to set his alarm. He almost slept until noon. What a troublesome pup. A troublesome pup is a troublesome pup after all. I can't do anything without my big brother. Just as Li Yu was thinking this, he looked up and saw Liu standing in front of him. Since when did he start grinning the moment he got close? I thought you'd already filled out the transfer forms, he said. You really scared me. The little pup puffed out his cheeks in annoyance and replied, I was close. And whose fault do you think all this is? What do you mean close? Liu ignored Li Yu's resentment. He immediately picked up on the key point in his words. He couldn't help but ask for clarification. The little pup's ears drooped, his face sad. My big brother wants me to transfer, he said glumly. Oh? And what do you think about that? The guy was sad, but the sly fox just had to tease him. He even pretended to cover his mouth and shed a tear as if he was heartbroken. How could you bear to abandon your friends? Li, you saw his act and was completely unimpressed. I might not bear to leave others, but you're not my friend. So why would you say that? Huh? Wait, you don't consider me a friend? This time, it was Liu's turn to be shocked. He sweat-dropped and asked in confusion. Asked by him, the little pup also sweat-dropped and hesitated a bit. But in the end, he still said, you think we're friends? What the heck? They've been so close lately, doing everything together, and now he doesn't know what their relationship is? Oh, puppy, how can you be so naive and easygoing? I've told you before, I don't really go out of my way to make friends, so I'm not really sure, the sly fox said, sweat-dropping. His expression was also incredibly twisted and hard to read. But if I had to guess, I'd say we're friends, right? He paused for a moment. Liu crossed his arms and said seriously, if you really transferred, I would definitely mind. After saying that, Liu silently observed Li Yu's expression, thinking, if not, then what are we? You're the first person my age I've been this close to. That's what it is. As if the other person wanted to be that close. It's because this sly fox is a pervert, and now he's acting like this. Whose fault is it? Li Yu foolishly furrowed his brow, scratching his head as he tried to reason it out. It's true we hang out together every day. I guess that makes us friends. The relationship between them could be described as ambiguous, more than friends, but less than lovers. The little pup had no idea such a complicated relationship could even exist. Right now, he was still worried. If I really transfer, would I end up missing this sly fox? It was truly hard to imagine that scene, but he couldn't rule out the possibility. After all, Liu had helped him a lot. Thinking of this, the two boys held hands without planning to, and just like that, their friendship was established in an instant. So, it seems we really are friends now. Defining their relationship faster than flipping a pancake. Oh my gosh. So if we're friends now, can I ask you something, friend? Do you still want to transfer? Liu had been worrying about this the whole time. Hearing him ask, Liu answered honestly, I don't want to, but I also don't want to make my big brother worry. I could only stall by telling him I'd think about it. The little pup is so thoughtful, but after hearing these words, the fox named Liu was extremely happy. As long as you don't want to transfer, then everything will be much easier to handle. He put his arm around Liu's shoulder and boasted confidently, I'll come to your house this weekend and help you persuade your brother. I'll prepare a good battle plan. You still dare to come to my house? In his life, the little pup only admired one person, this sly fox who knew he'd get beaten up, but still dared to show up. You're incredibly brave, my friend. The pup could only light a candle for his friend. In that case, you should wear a good bulletproof vest and a helmet, okay? This was the wisdom the little pup wanted to impart to Liu. After giving his instructions, he couldn't help but sigh. He was still very worried. Can I really rely on this fox to persuade my brother? It was really hard to say. Amidst Li Yu's anxiety and unease, the weekend arrived very quickly. Liu was already outside his classmate's house. However, Liu didn't let him in right away. Instead, he grabbed him by the collar and interrogated him first. Tell me, what exactly is your battle plan? You'll find out in a bit, Liu said with a mysterious smile. He wasn't angry about being grabbed by the little pup. He just had to ask to be sure. Did you give your brother a heads up? Speaking of which, Li Yu immediately became timid. The little pup avoided the question, his ears drooping as he turned his head away and said worriedly, I didn't know what to say. You've already made my brother's filter for carnivores. Even worse, it's a big deal that I'm even letting you come here. That's not it, Liu said, also sweat dropping after hearing this. We're talking about persuading your brother so you don't have to transfer. Why are you bringing carnivores into this? Of course, it was because the little pup was still hiding something. Liu let out a weary sigh. In the end, he had no choice but to tell him everything. Mujin's group was there that time, so I couldn't speak clearly. But actually, the reason I was ostracized at my old school was because besides me, everyone else was a carnivore. So, transferring and hating carnivores are two issues that are linked together. Liu broke into a sweat after hearing this. However, he analyzed the situation quickly. He crossed his arms and asked, that doesn't sound quite right. Didn't you say that in the club, there was a senior who was very nice to you? So why would your brother lump them all together and reject all carnivores? Because he's too good at fighting, Liu stammered. In the end, he could only turn away and fiddle with his own door, gloomily recounting, according to the results of that brawl, he was the one at fault and had committed the most serious act of violence. Oh my god, that's so discouraging. Liu's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He face-palmed and said wearily, I get it. Alright then, let's go with plan B. Huh? There's a plan B? Liu turned his head back in confusion. He saw the fox dash into his house. He sweat dropped and called after him, but it was too late. What's plan B? You haven't even said what it is. Why did you run inside already? This fox. Well, he's here now. Sooner or later, we have to face this. In the end, the situation in the room became two worried kids sitting obediently on the sofa, while the puppy's big brother sat to the side with his arms crossed, annoyed. What are you doing here again? Honorable big brother, the sly fox began, choosing his words carefully. I feel that you might not understand Li Yu's life at school, so I came here specifically to explain on his behalf. I already said I don't want to hear your explanations anymore. I don't believe you. Before Liu could finish, the puppy's big brother turned his head away and cut him off, not wanting to hear another word from him. The fox knew this would happen. That's why he had another preparation. Liu watched him pull an iPad out of his bag, wondering what he was up to. He saw him glance at his own wrist and couldn't help but scoff. You're not even wearing a watch. What are you looking at? The time is near. I call the first witness to the stand. Liu didn't reply to the little pup, just calmly said that. We're just talking. Why are there witnesses and a stand all of a sudden? What's going on here? The little pup had no clue what was happening. You'll understand in a moment. The fox was connecting to witness number 1. It was the Black Panther doctor. He started a video call with the Panther doctor. Then, he held the tablet with both hands in front of the big brother. Seeing the person on the other side of the screen, the little pup's big brother couldn't help but get angry. Renz, you're involved in these kids' business too? Sorry about this, doctor. Renz was clearly a full-fledged panther, but being questioned by the puppy's big brother, the guy got a little nervous. After an apologetic laugh, he said, I'm just here to help explain how Li Yu got injured. At this point, Renz gestured with his hand, inviting the person involved, the little fish, to recount the incident from the beginning, for Li Hui to understand. Leysa appeared before everyone in his familiar home clothes. Familiar. His face was still indifferent, without much expression. However, when he saw Li Hui, the boy still politely greeted Li Yu's big brother. Hello sir, I'm Leysa, 19 years old, a student. Li Yu and I had a small conflict last week. This might be the reason why he was in a bad mood. I apologize for this. The little fish already has trouble speaking, and they made him come out and be a witness. Halfway through his speech now, he started to falter, not knowing what to say next. Ren stood to the side. Seeing Leysa still hadn't gotten to the point, he finally had to prompt him from the side. The afternoon before last. Right. The afternoon before last. The little merman picked up quickly and continued his story. Yesterday afternoon, when we were playing the round, 3-legged race, we accidentally fell. That's how he got hurt. I'm also very sorry about this. The fish spoke as if he was running out of breath. But after hearing it, the puppy's big brother didn't believe a word. He even pointed at the screen and declared loudly, he's reading from a script, isn't he? He's definitely reading from a script. No way. Even if he was, everything he said is true. The little pup and the sly fox, both sweat dropped and hurriedly explained at the same time. No. Everything he said is completely true, Liu said. As soon as he finished, Li Yu chimed in after him. Brother, don't be prejudiced against amphibians. Besides, it wasn't really his fault. Hearing the little pup defend him, Leysa happily recited a very long line. Li Yu, I want to be your friend. My feelings for you are like a microwave. Although it may seem calm, it's actually extremely hot and will explode. The fish said this while making a heart sign at the screen. Li Yu was both touched and sweat dropping. It's going to explode? So touching. That's a pretty unique metaphor. However, Li Yu also wanted to shout, good job, little fish. You have trouble speaking, but you still managed to memorize such a long line. That must have been hard for you, buddy. Taking the opportunity of the little merman easing the atmosphere, the sly fox immediately interjected. See, they've all made up. The little pup, Li Yu, turned to look at his big brother. He also tried to explain to him. Now you know what happened, right? I didn't get hurt because of Lu. Right. One person started, and the other followed. The sly fox sat to the side, nodding vigorously. Not every carnivorous beastman is as bad as you think. Look, isn't the school nurse also a carnivore? The two kids talked until they were blue in the face, but the deep-seated ideas in the puppy's big brother's mind couldn't be changed with just a few words. He looked at Liu. Although not as harsh as before, his attitude hadn't improved by much. So the injury wasn't your fault, but you still can't prove that you haven't done other things to Li Yu, right? As he spoke, the big brother pointed at the screen again. Or more accurately, he pointed at the Black Panther doctor on the video and declared, besides, Renz is very different. He's a slob. We're just talking. Why are you insulting your friend so bluntly? The whole group heard this and could only laugh awkwardly. This puppy's big brother is super straightforward. He's not afraid of offending his friends at all. But, it's okay. If one witness isn't persuasive enough, then let's call witness number 2 to the stand. The sly fox had prepared who knows how many plans for when he came to the pup's house. Even now, despite being shot down, he was still very confident. Before ending the call with the Black Panther's family, the two on screen didn't forget to smile and wave goodbye cheerfully. Witness number 2 was none other than the siblings, Mujin and Ahong. As soon as the video connected, Mujin sadly asked Li Yu, I heard you have to transfer. Is it true? Boo-hoo. If you leave, what will happen to our art club? Ahong quickly followed his sister's lead. It's unclear if the two kids were using a script, but, Li, you heard his friends not at all fake crying and broke into a sweat. Hey, how do you all know about this? Just as Li Yu finished speaking, on the other side, Mujin gave her little brother a painful pinch. Ahong's face contorted from the pinch. He let out a yelp and heard his sister next to him hiss through gritted teeth. Cry! You're supposed to be crying. After that, the two puppy brothers heard the heart-wrenching, painful cries of Ahong coming from the other side of the screen. But in reality, it was because his sister pinched him too hard. The little guy couldn't help but cry, even if he didn't want to. However, since he was already pinched, Ahong started to cry his heart out. Boo-hoo-hoo, Li Yu, can you please not transfer? I can't bear to be apart from you. Boo-hoo-hoo, we just became friends, didn't we? Boo-hoo-hoo. Li Yu was moved by every boohoo from his friend. Tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. He had no idea Ahong was fake crying because he was pinched. He only knew that he was moved by their strong bond of comradeship. After listening for a while, the puppy's big brother couldn't take it anymore. Finally, he had to go sit next to Li Yu and comfort him worriedly. Don't cry. The transfer hasn't been decided yet. I'll discuss it with Li Yu again. The little pup turned to look at his big brother. Before he could even open his mouth to say anything, Ahong and Mu Jin on the other side were already cheerfully thanking him. Yes, thank you, big brother. We hope you'll be sure to ask Li Yu what he really thinks. Goodbye, big brother. Acting is so tiring. As soon as they said this, the two quickly hung up to avoid being exposed. And so, the witness testimony ended there. Liu turned off the iPad and turned to ask the big brother. You probably understand Li Yu's actual situation now, right? The little pup also looked at his big brother, nervously waiting to see what he would say. I understand. You showed me these things to sway me, but what I care about most is that Li Yu is always with you. Li Hui turned his head to glance at Liu, his eyes still filled with caution. Before, I clearly heard him say something about deception. Actually, Liu was just an excuse for Li Hui to choose to transfer his little brother. In reality, there were no problems among the kids so far. It was just that Li Yu, hiding his identity as an omnivore among these carnivores, made him extremely worried. Once this was exposed, there was no telling what might happen. It was truly a ticking time bomb that made one lose sleep. Just as he was thinking this, Li Hui suddenly heard the kid next to him say, "To be honest, I've known for a long time that Li Yu is a canine. You're worried about this, right, big brother?" How could someone as smart and clever as Liu not realize what Li Hui was agonizing over? So this time, he decided to be frank with the two brothers. The moment he said that, the two puppy brothers were, as expected, quite frightened. Liu was panicked because he didn't know why Liu would reveal this to his big brother, while Li Hui was panicked because this fox had actually discovered his little brother's identity long ago. However, since Liu dared to say this, he was naturally confident. He didn't wait for the two Li brothers to have a chance to speak, and continued directly. Li, you likes to act tough, so he doesn't tell you anything. But I feel that only by being honest can I put your mind at ease. Liu crossed his arms and calmly looked at the two brothers, then slowly said, on the very first day he started school, I found his ID, and I figured it out then. But I've kept his secret for him until now. At this point, Liu reached out and pulled Liu closer, then put on a charming smile and said, we're best friends, you know. So sometimes when we talk, we joke about it a little. Last time, you happened to overhear us, and misunderstood that I was threatening him, right? Li, you saw the sly fox's two-faced act, and was at a loss for words. On the outside, the pup cooperated and let Liu pull him closer, but inside, he was cursing this fox relentlessly. So you're only being honest about keeping the secret, but not mentioning the hush money, which was sniffing the pup. What a sly old fox. So good at making himself look good. Right, brother? Just as the little pup was thinking this, his brother's question rang in his ear. He timidly turned to look at his brother and stammered, Brother, I'm sorry, I've been hiding it from you, because I didn't want you to worry about me, and then blame yourself. Li, you clenched his fists. His voice was soft but full of suppressed emotion. I know that ever since Mom and Dad passed away, you've always shouldered the responsibility of taking care of me, and you've always been hung up on what happened when we were kids. But the little puppy seriously turned to look at his big brother. For the first time in his life, he firmly told his brother his own thoughts. When we were little, I was the one who ran off on my own. What happened a year ago was also because I didn't handle my relationships with classmates well. None of these things are your responsibility. I don't want to see you torment yourself like this anymore. Li Hui had never thought he would one day hear his little brother say these words. His instinct to love and protect had always made him think that everything he did was for Li Yu's own good. It wasn't until he heard his brother's true feelings that he was left stunned. Li Yu wasn't a heartless or thoughtless child. The two brothers had relied on each other to survive until now. He knew very well how much his big brother loved him. The reason Li Yu said these words was that he just wanted to let Li Hui know that, sooner or later, a younger brother has to learn to face life independently. Besides, I have a lot of new friends now. Actually, Liu has always taken care of me. He's a really good person. He was speaking so smoothly, but suddenly, at this part, the record skipped a bit. Li Yu didn't want to praise the sly fox next to him against his will, but he had already let it slip. Even if it was against his will, he had to grit his teeth and finish it. He's very good. In front of his big brother, Li, you giving him the good person card made Liu extremely happy. He cupped his blushing cheeks, his sparkling eyes wide. While nodding in agreement with Li Yu, he assured him, Big brother, don't worry, I will forever keep Yu's secret. Actually, the little pup's big brother was already feeling reassured, but after seeing Liu's dramatic face, now he couldn't feel reassured at all. What the heck? No matter how he looked at it, this fox seemed incredibly sly. So sly. Oh well, his little brother had already said this much, so in the end, Li Hui had to give in. I understand. He smiled at his little brother, then turned to Liu and said, I'm sorry for always misunderstanding you before. Seeing that little you has so many good friends, I feel somewhat at ease. I hope you guys can get along well in the future. Hey, why does it feel like the big brother is marrying his little brother off? What the heck? You're handing your brother over to the enemy. It's still not too late to take it back and change your mind. Li Hui had no idea the sly fox next to him was eyeing his little brother. After apologizing to Liu, he turned to pat Liu's head, softly reminding him, since you don't want to transfer, then I won't force you anymore. But if anything happens from now on, you have to tell me right away, okay? Li Yu grinned, his eyes crinkling as he replied in a loud voice. Clearly, getting the transfer issue resolved made him very happy. The little pup turned his head to look at Liu. He turned to look at him at the same time, and gave him a wink. The atmosphere between the two kids at this moment was rosy and harmonious. With the burden in his heart lifted, the little pup was in charge of seeing his sly fox classmate out. As soon as they left the house, he beamed and exclaimed, luckily you came up with this idea. We solved everything in one go. If the pup is happy, the fox is happy. And being praised made him even more eager to show off. You have to mix truth with lies. That's how you make people believe you. You should learn from me. So proud. Even showing off. The little pup watched and broke into a cold sweat. As expected, you're as wicked as ever. Being praised one moment and then criticized the next left the fox utterly confused. However, before he could say anything, the little pup had already run a few steps ahead. Then he suddenly spoke up, but, I still haven't said it to you. Liu turned his head, smiled, waved, and said with true sincerity, thank you. Thank you for everything you've helped me with until now. Now I feel like we're really friends. The adorable little pup made the sly fox's face flush red. He wanted to pin him down and cuddle him, to sniff the apple pie scent on him. Unfortunately, they were out on the street right now, so the fox could only hold back. He took a few steps forward, bent down to look at Li Yu's face. His cheeks flushed as he smiled and said, don't be so polite. As friends, please take care of me from now on. Time flies. And soon it was winter. Since it wasn't time for class yet, Liu stood in the hallway, resting his chin on his hand. As he admired the view, he contemplated life. Although he felt he had always followed his previous principles and behaviors, by doing a few things to care for others, the results he got were completely different. He remembered when Li Yu said they had really become friends. The little pup's bright, smiling face at that moment, even now, recalling it, Liu still felt incredibly satisfied. Maybe it was because of the different starting points. So before it was just simple politeness, but now there was a chance to develop into a friendship. It seems that not specifically crafting an image for myself is actually quite well liked. Liu silently pondered, feeling that socializing was a topic with no discernible rules. Just as the sly fox was pondering life, in the corner of his eye, he saw two figures approaching, a little fish and a little pup, with their arms around each other's shoulders, happily singing the Coca-Cola song. Li Yu was in charge of the lead vocals, while the little merman was in charge of the harmony. Drinking Coca-Cola in the cold winter. Coca-Cola. Even if my stomach hurts, I'm still happy. Happy. Perfectly in sync. So happy. So full of youthful energy. Liu watched and broke into a cold sweat. These two, on the other hand, make friends very easily. They've already become one. Gulp. Gulp. Asterisk. The fox blinked, watching the two little troublemakers with identical movements, in the exact same posture, tilting their heads back to chug Coca-Cola. Then, they both let out a satisfied sigh in unison, perfectly in sync, just like a pair of twins. Seeing this, Liu suddenly wanted to take back what he just said. This isn't just becoming one anymore. They've been completely assimilated. Say what you will, but such foolish, image-ruining behavior. Sorry, but this fox can't do it. Therefore, we can only be simple friends. As friends, you have to be curious and ask about new things. Liu was no exception. He quickly ran over to the two of them. Whether it was intentional or not, he squeezed in between Li Yu and Li Xia, then turned his head and asked the little pup with a smile, since when did you guys buy matching hats? Mr. Ren's bought these. Li Yu gleefully touched the hat on his head and happily told Liu, this is a gift, to thank me for helping Li Xia improve his language skills. You're jealous, aren't you? This is a bestie thing. Whoops, I mean a bro thing. Bestie is correct. Not a mistake at all. The little merman, who was stroking his hair, heard these unfamiliar words. He immediately asked with scholarly curiosity, what is a bestie? Two besties are close female friends. Liu held up two fingers to indicate two people who have a very good relationship. As he spoke, the pup put his hands together to form a heart. Li Xia didn't understand the words, but he understood the hand gesture immediately. You mean girls who become best friends? Yes, bingo. The little pup proudly gave the little fish a thumbs up. As expected of Li Yu's friend, you're a fast learner. Witnessing this one-of-a-kind teaching moment, the sly fox could only turn his face away, unable to bear watching directly. I'm tired. I can't believe you thought of this way to teach him. Hearing him say that, Li Yu quickly pulled him aside and whispered, anyway, wearing matching hats proves our relationship is very good, right? That way, the group of flower-protecting messengers, who used to surround Leysa before won't come looking for trouble with me anymore. The little pup's calculations are impressive. After hearing this, even Liu had to admit defeat. Although, even if you weren't wearing the hats, who with eyes couldn't see that you two have a good relationship? Besides, that group seems to have lost interest in Leysa already. The little pup whispered, but somehow, Leysa, who was standing not far away, heard everything clearly. The fish took off the hot hat on his head. As he let out a breath, he said, I've explained your misunderstanding to them, but they don't seem to care. The sly fox looked at the two kids like they were two idiots. Seeing their naive and clueless faces, he had to put his arms around their shoulders and start explaining. That group was just using the excuse of attacking you to get on Leysa's good side, because they felt that Leysa would become a popular figure in the school. Unexpectedly, he ended up becoming friends with an idiot like you, and was assimilated into an idiot, so he completely lost his appeal. Listen to that, listen to that. Is that how a human being talks? Who comforts people like you do? Liu was so mad at being called an idiot, it was unbelievable. However, according to what Liu said, people like that group of kids no longer clinging to Leysa is a good thing. From the moment Liu put his arm on his shoulder, Leysa had been staring at his hand, intently. While the fish was considering whether to slap this fox's hand away, he was also listening to him speak. Hearing him scold both Liu and himself, the little fish couldn't help but ask back, so, you're an idiot too? This question could never be answered, because Liu automatically filtered out any words attacking his intelligence. On the contrary, Liu put his hands behind his head and said as he walked, actually, Leysa is still very popular. I once saw someone secretly stuff a love letter into his desk. Why am I not that popular? Liu pulled out his chair and sat down. As he sat, the pup lamented his life. However, very quickly, he was slapped in the face by life. The rogue fox, seeing the big 65 on Liu's test, felt the urge to spank him. This little pup of his, a person whose English score is just barely passing, and he's still hoping to be popular, being bluntly exposed for his poor grades by Liu, the pup didn't feel embarrassed at all and instead acted like, I'm the man. No, my friend. You just don't get it. Sometimes, academic failures and delinquent youths are even more popular. This is the villain character archetype, both adorable and charming. Adorable, maybe, but I haven't seen the charming part yet. Liu felt the urge to sweat drop after hearing that. What's so charming about being at the bottom of the class? The final exams are coming up. Get a grip, dude. Being shot down time and time again, Liu finally had no other reason but to use Leysa as an excuse. Well, isn't Leysa's score worse? But still, he hadn't even finished his sentence when his best friend, the little fish, showed him his test paper with a big 78 right in his face. This slap hurt more than all the previous slaps Liu had delivered, dealing a critical social blow to the little pup. He flopped lifelessly onto his desk. Why does he learn so fast? I feel sorry for the little pup, but who asked him to be lazy? Liu continued to attack him without mercy. Maybe it's because the memory in his head has just been used, so the storage capacity is better? Hearing him say that, Leysa also turned his head and gave a thumbs up to encourage him. Liu is very smart. You can definitely do it too. Good brother. Little Liu was revived in 1 second. However, Liu, sitting next to him, saw this scene and continued to attack him. Oh, Leysa has already learned how to lie to people. After saying that, he quickly changed the subject. I have some coupons for the bookstore. Tomorrow, after school, let's go buy a workbook. Liu, beaten down and defeated, finally pouted and glared at the fox resentfully. Can't you lie to me a little? The little pup wanted to deceive himself, but unfortunately, Liu didn't give him the chance. The next day, sure enough, after school, the fox dragged the little pup to the bookstore. While the two of them were choosing a workbook, the fox next to him kept yawning, which puzzled Liu. What's wrong with you today? You keep yawning. If Liu hadn't asked, it would have been fine. But asking made Liu angry. He gritted his teeth and said, because of that beastly older brother of mine. Last night, he brought people home again and partied all night. It was so noisy I couldn't sleep at all. You have a brother? The little pup seemed to be focusing on the wrong thing. But since he had already asked, he continued, this is the first time I've heard you mention it. I thought you were an only child. The fox teacher didn't answer. The pup started to curiously circle him, asking a barrage of questions, relentlessly. How old is your brother? Do you have a good relationship? Is he also a big-tailed leopard? Liu really didn't expect Liu to be so interested in his brother. The little pup's questions made him break into a sweat. Finally, he had to reply, he's really not worth talking about. You just need to know he looks a lot like me. Just as Liu finished speaking, someone nearby called Liu's name. The two kids turned their heads to look. Liu was the first to cheer happily, senior. What a coincidence. Long time no see. Appearing before them, at this moment was a tall young man. This person's name is Long, a monitor lizard. He was also the senior. From before, the one Liu always mentioned in stories about his old school. Meeting his old senior again made the little pup so happy he was blooming. He threw all thoughts of his fox friend to the back of his mind, only caring about skipping over, to wag his tail and reminisce with his senior. Senior, which school are you at now? Is it nearby? Long's appearance looked very tough, but the way he spoke to the little pup was very pleasant. I've been taking a break for the past 6 months. I'm preparing to retake the second semester of 11th grade next year. Is it because we left school before the end of the term? Liu smiled sheepishly and rubbed his head. Senior is so serious and hardworking. I was lazy and transferred directly into 11th grade. You just need to make up for the lessons you missed. Long gently patted the little pup's head and praised him warmly. Liu is also working very hard. It's been a while. I feel like you've grown taller. Hee. The more the little pup was praised, the harder his tail wagged. Being petted on the head by his senior made him as happy as a blooming flower. However, the sly fox behind him was not having it. Liu had calculated everything just to get a chance to pat the little pup's head. When he petted the little pup's head, he never looked this happy. Now, seeing those two being so close, how could he not be extremely sour? The sly fox's face at this moment looked like he had just been force-fed a bowl of sour lemons. He scowled and glared at the two of them from behind, so jealous that even his liver hurt. No wonder the little pup likes him so much. He's so good with words, unlike some people. For the first time in his life, the fox felt that he was inferior to someone else. However, before he could think too much, his hand was grabbed by Liu. The little pup pulled him in front of the senior named Long, and began to excitedly introduce them to each other. Senior, this is my friend from my new school. Liu, this is my senior. His name is Long. I've told you. I could only give a fake smile and say hello. Hello, I'm Liu. About him before. He's the one who fought for me in the club. Caught off guard, Liu was pulled out to meet his love rival. What could he do at this point? He could only force a smile and say hello. Hi, I'm Liu. Hello. Long calmly nodded in return. After greeting him, he instinctively stuck his tongue out due to his species habit. As he stuck his tongue out, Long asked, "Do you guys study at West 10th? Yes, we do." Liu was very excited. His tail just kept wagging back and forth. It's the school at the west intersection of Central Avenue. At this point, the little pup happily invited his senior. You should consider transferring there too. Liu heard the pup inviting another guy to transfer schools, and his armpits started sweating like a fountain. He turned his head away so the other person couldn't see his expression, silently praying that Long wouldn't agree. Don't come. Our class is already overloaded with transfer students. Well, wishful thinking, but life is rarely like a dream. As soon as Long heard Liu's invitation, he immediately agreed. I'll consider it. At this point, he hesitated for a moment. Then he asked, "Speaking of which, how has your brother been lately?" Huh? My brother? Lee, you had no idea why. Out of the blue, his senior would suddenly mention his brother. After hearing his senior's question, I suddenly smell a ship somewhere. Don't tell me the pup's senior has a crush on the pup's big brother? While Liu was still confused, a woman appeared from behind the bookshelf. The person held a book and peeked over to this side, calling, "Long, can we go yet? Mom's finished buying her books." So that person was Long's mother. Hearing his mother call, Long politely bowed his head to say goodbye. Sorry, my mom and I are in a bit of a hurry. We can contact each other online later. The little pup saw his senior bow, so he also put his hands by his side and seriously bowed back. Okay, goodbye, senior. Liu stood behind, watching the two of them bowing back and forth, his head full of question marks. It was probably the first time he had seen someone who looked so rough, but was so polite. After the senior left, the sly fox couldn't help but comment to Liu. He looks very different from his appearance. He seems to be a humble and polite person. Wow, the fox is praising another guy. I thought he was praising the pup. The little pup tilted his head up to the sky, extremely proud, with his hands on his hips, and replied, "Of course. Senior is good at his studies and excels at sports. He's a very respectable person." Oh, isn't that just like me? The fox smiled confidently, as if he had hit the jackpot. You can just respect me like you respect him. Huh? You're really thick-skinned. Liu wanted to scold him some more, but his eyes accidentally landed on something. So the pup didn't bother talking anymore and ran over to the bookshelf to take a look. What Liu was aiming for was a book with a light blue cover. He reached out and took it from the shelf, silently thinking to himself, Huh? They even have picture books here? The picture book Liu was holding was an old story. Let's open the book and see what's inside. Once upon a time, a long time ago. Well, anyway, it was a long time ago. There was a wicked fox who liked to cause trouble in the village, stealing the villagers' property. At this time, a brave little puppy hero stood up. He intended to punish the wicked fox and take back all the treasures for everyone. Liu was thrilled to hear that the little puppy was the hero. He even chuckled to himself, thinking that in stories like this, the wicked fox would surely get a sound beating. Thinking this, the pup continued to turn to the next page to see what would happen. He was really looking forward to the fight between the pup and the fox. Who would have thought that as soon as he turned the page, the author had the fox and the pup get married? Dude, This kind of plot jump is a bit much. Yu, after looking at it, made a face like he had just eaten crap. Without a second word, he immediately closed the book and shoved it back. His face was full of disgust. Fairy tales these days are so deceptive. After the little pup finished being indignant about the fairy tale, he moved on to being mad at the bookstore. This bookstore is so cheap. It's this cold and they don't even have the heat on. The pup's hands were freezing. Yu thought as he blew on his hands to warm them up. He glanced around for a moment. Finally, his eyes landed on the fluffy, incredibly warm-looking tail belonging to Liu. The little pup's eyes lit up. While Liu was yawning and reading a book, the pup stealthily crept closer, intending to do something dirty to his classmate's tail. "Let me warm up," said the little pup. The moment he got close, he grabbed the fox's tail with his own freezing hands. Liu was caught off guard by the pup's sudden and unexpected action. Then, with a poof from his tall human form, he instantly transformed into a golden-furred fox, with 4 black-socked paws, looking incredibly cute. He might have been cute, but Liu, the one who'd caused it, was in no mood to appreciate it. His hand was still holding Liu's tail, but his face looked like it was about to lose all its color from shock. Hey! You! Liu, who turned Liu into a little fox, was now about to play the victim and blame his friend. Luckily, Liu, despite being a fox, could still speak human, so before the little pup could open his mouth, he cut him off, pulling a surprise attack on someone who's mentally unstable like this. What were you thinking? Liu thought that after his criticism, the little pup would get scared and apologize, but as soon as he finished speaking, Liu suddenly said, "You right now look like a big loaf of bread with 4 chopsticks stuck in it. Is now the time to be body-shaming me?" Liu was furious hearing Liu's comparison. "It's your fault I turned into this, and now you dare to make comments like that?" Liu knew it was his fault, but he couldn't help but argue back. "I didn't expect this to happen either. Before, grabbing your tail a little was no big deal." As the little pup spoke, he stuffed Liu's clothes into a bag. The little fox sitting beside him heard what he said, and angrily tapped his hand with a tiny paw. "I told you I wasn't feeling well today. Of course I'm going to change back to my animal form if I get startled." The 2 kids were arguing loudly in a public place. Eventually, the noise attracted a female employee from the bookstore, who came over to look. You had no idea they had been discovered. Right now, he was just focused on clamping his hand over Liu's mouth, stopping him from making any more noise. "You've done the same thing to me before anyway. Let's just call it even now. Manager, look over there." Just as the little pup finished speaking, the employee brought the manager over. Pointing towards Liu and his friend, she tattled. The manager lady, you could tell from her face she wasn't a kind person. The moment she appeared, she started yelling. "What are you 2 doing? A carnivore transforming in a public place is against the law. I could call the police and have you arrested." "Arrested?" Liu and you both broke into a cold sweat hearing that. "Oh my god, we haven't even done anything. He just transformed, and you want to call the police and arrest him? That's so harsh." The little pup was terrified by the manager's threat. He hurriedly picked up Liu and immediately corrected her. He's not a beastman, he's my pet. Actually, he's a dog. I knew this would happen." Liu, held up by Liu in front of the 2 women, was completely bewildered. "Puppy? Oh, puppy. Can't you come up with a more believable excuse? How can you look at this obvious fox and call it a dog?" Liu was mentally exhausted, but the 2 women were staring so intensely. In the end, the fox had no choice but to cooperate with his classmate. He let out 2 half-hearted woofs. "It really is a dog. You'd think they wouldn't believe it, but they unbelievably did." The 4-eyed female employee pushed up her glasses and stated it plainly, making the manager standing beside her furious. "You should get your eyes checked. Is there something wrong with your eyes? No matter how you look at it, that's a fox. There really is something wrong with my eyes. Can't you see I'm wearing glasses?" The employee wanted to argue back like that, but her boss was too angry, so she decided against it. After scolding her employee, the manager turned her head and yelled at Liu. "Anyway, you people get out of here, now, or else I'm calling the police. We're paying customers. Why are you being so harsh?" Hearing call the police, Liu quickly threw the fox over his shoulder and bolted out the door. We know. We're leaving right now." The manager lady stood with her hands on her hips, glaring at their retreating figures. She didn't stop until the 2 kids were far away. And so, normally the fox carries the pup, but this time, it was the pup's turn to carry the fox away. Afterward, you carried Liu outside and found a bench to sit on. Because of the cold weather, he wrapped the fox inside his jacket. Sitting comfortably and warmly on the bench, he asked, "When is your family coming to pick you up? Didn't you just call them?" Liu was wrapped in the little pup's jacket, his 2 hind legs and tail dangling in the air. His expression was completely lifeless. "You're the one who started this mess, and you dare to act impatient? So, how are you feeling? Still can't change back?" While talking, Liu secretly sniffing the fur on Liu's body. The fox was annoyed by his sniffing. He struggled and wiggled out of Liyu's jacket, then opened his mouth and retorted, "You've been secretly sniffing me a lot." "What are you sniffing?" "I'm not sniffing anything." Little Li, you put on a righteous expression and said fearlessly, "Because you look like a big loaf of bread. I was smelling to see if you smelled like bread. But you don't. How strange." Liu was mentally exhausted with this little pup. "How many times have I explained? I'm a fox, not a real loaf of bread. Where would I get a bread smell for you to sniff, buddy?" The little pup didn't care if it was real or fake. He just knew that Liu looked really cute right now. So soft and warm, the pup was completely smitten. Liu was also quite pleased that his animal form was admired by the little pup. The fox's face gradually turned red. His sly eyes narrowed slightly. Then, the fox suddenly took the initiative to get closer. He placed his 2 paws on Liu's chest and looked at him calmly, asking, "Oh, this seems to be the first time you've praised me. Do you really see me as a pet now?" The little pup would love to have a pet like that. Unfortunately, this pet wasn't well behaved at all. After asking those words, Liu didn't give Liu a chance to reply. Instead, he immediately bit his collar with his mouth. His paws were nimble, untying the pup's tie to expose a patch of skin underneath. A cold wind blew past, and Liu shivered, goosebumps rising on his skin. "What are you doing? That tickles." His paws were nimble. He reached out, wanting to grab the fox, but before he could act, the fox stuck out his long tongue and licked the nape of his neck. Yikes! Liu was caught off guard, startled by Liu's groping. The spot that was licked gradually turned red. It showed just how sensitive that area was. "I take back what I just said. No matter what form you're in, you're still a pervert." Liu was horrified and quickly pulled the lecherous fox away. However, it was too late to pull him away now. The fox even licked his lips in satisfaction. The little pup wasn't wrong. This fox really is a pervert. On top of that, he was still cocky. The fox licked his lips and narrowed his eyes, asking, "Now are you clear on who the real food is? Apple pie pup. Do you believe I'll throw you in the trash?" So arrogant. Now that he's a little fox, he still dares to talk so big. Liu was furious after hearing that. He quickly grabbed Liu by the tail and scruff, planning to toss him into the trash to teach him a lesson. "After I throw you in, I'll take your stuff and run. Let's see what you do then." Liu was scared into a cold sweat by Liu's threat. He quickly and obediently backed down to make peace. Don't. I'm just a big, defenseless loaf of bread. Wasn't someone acting all high and mighty just a moment ago?" Li, you looked at him, furious. But before he could scold him further, a car horn sounded nearby, catching his attention. Liu also looked up and out. Seeing the car that had just arrived, he said, "I think that's my ride." "Wait, this is your family's car?" The little pup, carrying the little fox, ran out to the street. Before he even got close, he was stunned by the luxury of the car in front of him. He saw the car pull to a stop right in front of them. The shiny black hood looked valuable. Looking at the style and the logo on the hood, even though Liu was a kid who didn't know much about cars, he could still tell this was no ordinary car. "Little Master Liu, are you all right?" While the little pup was marveling at the luxury car of Liu's family, an uncle in a proper suit stepped out of the car. The moment he saw Liu, he smiled kindly and asked with concern. The more Liu looked, the more his worldview was shattered. Could this be the legendary family driver? Rich people sure know how to live. Liu didn't know what was going through Liu's mind. Hearing the uncle ask, he looked up and replied calmly, "I'm fine. Sorry, uncle. I said you didn't need to pick me up today, and you could go straight home from work. But in the end, I had to trouble you to make a trip." "Yes." The driver uncle waved his hand, indicating it was no problem. Then he humbly turned to ask Liu, "Are you Liu's classmate? Hurry and get in the car, I'll take you home too." "Huh?" The little pup was a bit awkward, being invited into a fancy car for the first time. "Is that okay?" "Thursday, thank you." In response to the driver's invitation, Liu had no objections. Very quickly after that, the little pup was being chauffeured by his rich classmate in a luxury car to the front of his apartment building. "Thank you, uncle." The little pup ran to the front as soon as he got out of the car. "Thank you, driver, sir." After he finished his thanks, Liu held some coupons in his mouth and passed them to him. "Here, these are the coupons for the bookstore. We couldn't buy the workbook today, so you can go by yourself later." The little pup instinctively reached out and took the coupons. As he said thank you, Liu, inside the car, waved his paw and said, "Bye, goodbye, goodbye." Liu stood in front of his building, watching the car carrying the sly fox disappear. Only then did he scratch his head in confusion, thinking, a rich young master like Liu uses coupons? What's his family like anyway? At the same time, Renz and Leysa had just gotten home. The Black Panther carried a bunch of stuff in his arms. As soon as he walked through the door, he asked curiously, "Why did you bring so much stuff home at the end of the term? I don't remember you bringing anything to school." After closing the door, Leysa bent down to get his slippers and replied, "Someone else left it at my seat." He had been in school for a while now, and he could speak much more clearly than before. While he was talking, the panther doctor curiously opened the bags to see what was inside. "Someone else gave them to you? Are you dating?" The doctor pulled a jar of chocolate out of the bag. In his other hand, He held 2 pink envelopes. They were clearly love letters, no doubt about it. From beginning to end, Leysa didn't seem to care about the panther doctor's reaction. No matter how shocked the other person was, his attitude remained as calm as ever. These things might not be from the same person. The fish is both handsome and popular. No wonder so many people like him. Renz could already sense the danger just by hearing that. He turned his head to look at Leysa, asking with some concern, "Can I read these? If you want to, go ahead." Leysa was turning on the television. He didn't even bother to look when the doctor asked, just calmly nodded in agreement. With the person in question's permission, Renz immediately opened the letter in his hand to see the contents. What did it say? It's unclear if he read some romantic words or what, but the panther's face immediately turned bright red. The fur on his body also stood on end. Teenagers these days are terrifying. This love letter was actually written to Leysa by another boy. Oh my god, so bold. The more the panther read, the more he felt his crush was in danger of being stolen. He quickly sat down next to Leysa, sweat dropping as he asked the fish, "Have you read these letters? How do you plan to reply to them?" Leysa was still casually changing channels when he heard the doctor's question. He didn't even bat an eye before replying, "I've read a few, but I don't know them. Why should I reply?" Phew. Renz had thought Leysa was going to say something else. Hearing that, he let out a sigh of relief. However, just as he sighed, the panther doctor grew worried again. Although he learned the language very quickly, Leysa still didn't seem to understand the boundaries of communication between people. Teaching him about these aspects could no longer be postponed. Just as Renz was thinking this, he heard Leysa turn his head and say, "Oh, right, I just bought some body lotion. Can you help me apply it tonight?" The fish said this as he held out a pink tube of lotion. When he made the request, his expression was as calm as ever, as if he didn't know there was anything wrong with it. The more the fish was like this, the more determined Renz was to teach him how to behave around others. There could not be another moment's delay. This fish has a serious lack of boundary awareness. He thought that, but if the panther's face wasn't bright red, and his mouth hadn't agreed so quickly, maybe people would have believed him. He's so eager, but why is he so pretentious, doctor? That night, after showering, Leysa, as expected, stood naked in the bathroom, waiting for Renz to help him apply body lotion. In places he could reach himself, like his arms and hands, Leysa did it himself, but for his back and neck, he couldn't reach. In the end, that glorious task fell to Renz. The panther doctor applied lotion to the other person, blushing as he thought to himself, "Isn't this behavior a little too intimate?" He thought to himself and let his imagination run wild. He had a feeling Leysa had feelings for him. After all, the little fish was always clinging to him like this. Clinging for Dr. Renz meant sleeping under the same blanket for warmth, and when it was cold, Leysa would wrap his arms around him for warmth and such. The more Renz thought about it, the redder his face became. The more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. However, he also considered another possibility. That is, Leysa simply doesn't mind this kind of contact. To put it bluntly, this fish doesn't understand a thing about love or intimacy. Just thinking about that, half of the feelings in his heart wanted to cool down. The panther doctor was thinking too much while applying lotion for the other person. In the end, his rubbing hand somehow wandered down to the fish's stomach area. Before the fish could smack his hand away, the guy was startled by the towel wrapped around the fish's waist slipping down, making him jump. He suddenly blushed and turned his head away, yelling, "Hurry, wrap it up!" As he yelled, the panther excitedly squeezed the fish's newly bought lotion tube, causing the cream inside to squirt out everywhere. When the excitement passed, and he turned his head to look again, the doctor realized the fish was wearing boxer shorts under the towel. Boxer shorts. At this moment, the little merman was staring blankly, looking at him like he was an idiot. The doctor was both embarrassed and nervous. He quickly stammered an explanation. Get dressed properly, okay?" Leysa was at a complete loss with this panther guy. He lowered his head and rubbed his hands, asking Renz sadly, "Why do you always overreact to everything? Back at the aquarium, I obviously wasn't wearing anything." That seems to be true. The panther shouldn't have listened. The more he listened, the redder his face got, and the more his hands trembled. The result was that Leysa's new tube of lotion was almost completely squeezed out by him. Oh my god. The panther doctor wasted the supplies but didn't seem to notice. Right now, his mind was busy thinking, if what Leysa said is true, then in essence, he's always been naked on display for everyone to see. The panther was overthinking things way too much. By the time he turned his head to look again, Leysa was about to walk out of the bathroom practically naked. "Don't go! Anyway, things are different now than before." Renz, blushing on one side, desperately grabbed the fish's pants on the other. The guy didn't dare to look, just trying to yell so the little fish would hear him, especially when you're outside. Absolutely do not casually expose your body. At this point, the guy threw all caution to the wind. He turned and quickly wrapped the fish up tightly. While putting a towel on the fish, the doctor said, "Get dressed and go back to your room. Today, I need to seriously teach." You a few lessons. Why do I have to study again? Leysa wasn't happy at the mention of studying. But even if he wasn't happy, Renz was still determined to teach. This fish some common sense again. The panther felt that if he let the little fish run wild like this, he would worry himself to death one day. Saying he would teach was no joke. He gave Leysa no chance to escape. The doctor, very professionally, set up a whiteboard in front of the little fish. He seriously explained it to the fish. Therefore, there are some intimate actions that can only be done between lovers. Carnivores should also have an awareness of boundaries. With herbivores, he was lecturing seriously, but Renz felt like Leysa's soul was floating in the clouds. The guy finished speaking with difficulty, finally sweat dropping and asking again, "Are you even listening?" Leysa replied verbally, but his soul had already drifted down to the deep sea. He really missed the days of chasing jellyfish and catching crabs in the sea, where he didn't have to suffer through learning such useless knowledge. Renz knew that teaching the fish was a long and arduous task, so he didn't dare to ask for too much. After one lesson, the fish understood this. But even if he didn't understand, the guy still wanted the fish to do a few examples. "Now, use the word I just explained to make a sentence," the panther said as he tapped the board. As soon as he finished, Leysa said seriously, "I like you." "Who?" The doctor, caught off guard by the blunt confession, felt his heart start to pound like crazy. His face was also hot enough to have a fever. Leysa. Leysa saw that his face was strange, but he was very seriously studying, so he didn't pay any mind. The little fish pointed at the board. With a troubled frown, he was told to make a sentence with the word like, "I like you." My goodness, that was too perfunctory. He thought the bright little fish was confessing to him. Who knew he was just making a sentence as requested? Dr. Black Panther was both embarrassed and angry. He immediately tapped the ruler in his hand on the board sharply. He blurted out in a panic, "I just said it." This kind of confession can only be said when you want to confirm a romantic relationship with someone. Then I like the microwave. Leysa, exhausted from the forced knowledge, could only sigh and change to another sentence. Dr. Black Panther wanted to both sigh and cry. After hearing this sentence, the young man couldn't help but think, am I on the same level as a microwave oven? Sometimes you're not even as good as a microwave, doctor. You like him, but why are you so difficult? When will the little fish ever figure it out? Oh dear. Dr. Black Panther felt that just being with the fish was happiness enough. Mentally exhausted, he concluded, long story short, when it comes to words, you also have to pay attention to the distance between people. Got it? He ended the lesson with a complicated heart. Dr. Rand sat down next to Leysa. He carefully asked, I've explained so much, do you find it confusing? If an intimate relationship develops between merfolk, they would behave the same way, right? Leysa turned to look at the doctor, then the fish again. He lowered his head and said, I'm not sure. Merfolk are not naturally social creatures. Forming a partnership is also done very cautiously, because in the Great Sea, we have no means of self-defense. According to Leysa, a single merman living alone might only attract one predator, a shark. But if they gather together, like a pair of merfolk, they would become the target of an entire school of sharks. Furthermore, when living in groups, they will compete for resources in a given area. Therefore, only when they can withstand the pressure of survival together and want to reproduce, will merfolk establish a partnership. I have never had a partner, so I don't really understand. Leysa concluded with such a statement. Only then did Rands understand that things were not as simple as he had thought. The reason Leysa lacked common sense about life was because his race was always solitary. Without communication, many concerns would not arise, like they do for social creatures on land. Furthermore, judging from a certain perspective, merfolk consider many practical issues and are quite cautious when choosing a partner. Understanding this point, Dr. Black Panther no longer forced the fish to study. The young man scratched his head and smiled to lighten the mood. Indeed, the way merfolk and land creatures communicate is a bit different. How about we find some romance movies to watch? It might be more intuitive. Well, as long as he didn't have to study, Leysa was happy. At this point, you could ask him to watch an animal documentary, and he would like it, let alone a movie. Dr. Black Panther held the remote to choose a movie, because the young man himself had never watched these dramas. On the web, he didn't know what movie to choose at the moment. The Panther randomly chose a movie titled Abusive Love, The Temptation of Returning Home. Then he pressed play for the movie to start. He said they'd watch a movie, but before long, the Panther was fast asleep. Leaving him alone, the little merman faced the melodramatic plot of the movie that was playing. What? I'll never forgive you again. You actually called me by the wrong name in bed. Just how many other women do you have out there? Well, I already said I was just drunk. If you don't believe me, then let's break up. Oh man. The more Leysa watched, the more the cold sweat poured. Just from the title, you could tell what kind of movie it was. Yet the doctor dared to show it to the little merman. One dared to play it. One dared to watch it. Leysa watched from beginning to end. It wasn't until the credits rolled on the screen that our fish, sweating, had to update his assessment of land creatures. It's over? Is this how all land animals love? The fish's worldview felt like it needed to be demolished and rebuilt. My god, that panther guy is a real walking disaster. After watching the movie, the little fish's head felt like it was being twisted into a pretzel. Land creatures' relationships are terrifying. They quickly become lovers, then have crazy physical relationships with many other people, and at the same time, they betray their lover. In the end, the movie ended with a breakup too. Scary, so scary. After watching the movie, Leysa sat awake all night. Although he now understood the definition of the word like, he still didn't understand what that feeling really was. If just because of the word like, everything could progress so easily, without any responsibility, then could like still be considered a precious feeling. Anymore? Good grief. That disaster of a doctor has made the little fish question his entire merman existence. And he's still sleeping. Leysa looked at Ranz's sleeping face. Suddenly, he remembered the panther guy's previous actions. The first time they met, Ranz also held his hand, just like in the opening of the movie earlier. The little fish's brows furrowed tightly, he thought as he recalled the past images. At that time, Ranz also held his hand, blushed, and boldly spoke his heart. This made Leysa think deeply. He taught me these things. Does he want to develop a relationship with me, into that kind of lover? Leysa nervously twisted his fingers together, although he was very grateful for everything up to now that Ranz had done for him. But if Ranz now told him that everything that had happened since they met was for this purpose, the merman thought up to this point and suddenly didn't want to think any further. Just that much was enough for him to understand a few things. Leysa sullenly climbed out of bed. Coincidentally, Dr. Black Panther also happened to wake up. The young man saw the credits rolling on the television screen. He quickly sat up and asked, What episode are we on? Finished watching it already? You didn't wake up early. You didn't wake up late. You just had to wake up when the little fish was hugging his pillow to leave. Seeing Leysa turn to leave, Ranz, completely bewildered, asked, Where are you going? I'm going back to my bed to sleep. The little fish didn't even bother to turn his head, but just coldly tossed out that sentence. Dr. Black Panther was still drowsy and not fully awake. He was stunned by the little fish's actions. He had no idea what was going on. He could only rub his head and think to himself, he suddenly knows to keep his distance. What on earth was this movie about? Oh, for Pete's sake. Letting Dr. Black Panther stay single is the right move. My goodness. Being single by his own merit like this, only a ghost could save him. On a clear, breezy night, while the Black Panther was about to lose his partner because of a melodramatic movie, Liu was sitting in his room with his chin in his hand, diligently studying. The phone next to the little puppy suddenly rang. He picked it up to look. He found that the message was from the cunning fox, whom he had saved with a very questionable name, the Great Bastard. In the message, Liu wrote this: Hi, this weekend's Christmas is also my birthday. I want to invite everyone to my house for a party. I'll prepare dinner and a place to sleep for everyone. Any classmates who want to join, please reply to me. Sounds so fake and pretentious, but that wasn't the main point. The main point the little puppy focused on was that Liu was planning to have the birthday party at his house. Thinking about the cunning fox's birthday party, Liu was a bit conflicted about whether he should go or not. If Liu's parents were there, it would be a little awkward. But if many classmates went along, it would probably be okay, huh? The many classmates the little puppy thought of included Mujin, Ahong, and himself. That's all. The little puppy was already happy just imagining it. A sleepover party or something like that would definitely be fun. That's what the little puppy thought. And very soon, Liu in his bedroom received a message from his apple pie puppy friend, with a very short line of text. I'll join. Hee, you fool. Look at that cunning smile. On this fox's face, you know nothing good is up. He didn't text back but pressed the record button and said, Okay, I'm really looking forward to it. The puppy is too trusting. This sounds like a trap somewhere. Christmas Day arrived in the blink of an eye. After getting everything ready, the little puppy put on a hat and ran to Liu's house for the birthday party. Looking at the luxurious modern architecture house in front of him, the puppy couldn't help but marvel internally. Truly a rich family. Just the front yard alone seems bigger than the puppy's apartment. You're finally here. Just as the little puppy finished his thought, the main door of the house was opened. Liu appeared cheerfully to welcome him. I've been looking through the window for half a day. As soon as he saw the cunning fox, Liu quickly smiled and said, Merry Christmas and happy birthday too. Thanks. Come on in. The puppy delivering himself to the door is enough to make the fox happy. Greetings are not necessary. What's wrong? Is everyone here already? Up to this point, Liu still thought that Liu had actually invited the whole class to the birthday party, so his expression was still very excited. It wasn't until the fox closed the door, then pulled him inside and chuckled, saying, Everyone? What, everyone? I only invited you. What? Only now did the little puppy realize something was wrong. Didn't you send a message to the whole group? Hey! The cunning fox put on an innocent face and looked at Liu. That innocent gaze seemed to be asking, who said that was a group message? A fox indeed. He'll stop at nothing to lure the little puppy into his den, huh? Even if Liu discovered his true colors now, it was already too late. Seeing the, I don't know, anything expression on Liu's face made the little puppy furious. Damn it, I got tricked again. And yet the puppy even took the trouble to bring Christmas hats for the whole class. Truly, no one is as foolish. Liu was so angry he turned around. wanting to go home immediately. However, once in the fox's den, there's no way to escape. As soon as he said he wanted to go home, his hand was grabbed by Liu. He cheerfully pulled the little puppy straight inside. Hey, don't be like that. You're already here. You have to spend my birthday with me tonight. Little Liu has been tricked by the cunning fox so many times without learning his lesson. But since he was already there, in the end, he didn't insist on going home. He could only let Liu hold his hand and pull him inside. As soon as they entered the living room, two beautiful young women greeted them with smiles. You must be Liu's classmate, right? Welcome. Please come in and have a seat. The two girls in front were both wearing maid outfits. The blue-haired one was named Yu, and the pink-haired one was Ling. Having just warmly welcomed their young master's classmate, Ling and Yu saw the tightly held hands of the two boys in front of them. In an instant, the two girls seemed to have figured something out. Their mouths dropped open in astonishment. Holding hands, the two looked at each other. Although Yu's bangs covered her eyes, they could still tacitly confirm their thoughts with each other. Two Fujoshis meeting a real-life gay couple. They were so happy they could cry, surrounding Li Yu and asking questions eagerly. You two must have a very good relationship, right? This is the first time I've seen the young master smile so happily. Huh? He smiles happily like this every day. Little puppy Li, you broke into a sweat upon hearing this. But before he could finish speaking, Ling, standing beside him, chimed in. I've watched the young master grow up since he was little. This is also the first time he's brought a friend home. This sentence was even more shocking than Yu's previous one. The little puppy was sweating bullets after hearing it. You just grew up, but you say you watched him grow up? How is that possible? That's too weird. The maids in his house occasionally act up. Liu was used to it, but now they were being so dramatic in front of his friend. It made the cunning fox break into a sweat too. He quickly interjected. He's just a friend, you guys. It's not time to act out this script yet. Meaning, not yet, but at some point, it will be, right? Okay. Ling and Yu will tone it down a bit. Later, after the relationship is confirmed, they can continue crying and telling stories. As soon as he spoke seriously, Ling and Yu immediately became serious. They turned back to stand opposite the two, obediently letting Liu introduce them to his future little boyfriend. Right, this is Miss Xiao Yu and Xiao Ling, the house staff. Or you could call them family service staff. Hello everyone. Li, Yu obediently and politely bowed his head in greeting. Yu still stood to one side without saying anything, but Ling smiled and said, no need to be so formal. After all, we're just nannies. The guest room is all cleaned up. Go rest first. The puppy had accidentally wandered into the fox's den. Currently, he didn't know what to do. He could only quickly follow Liu to the guest room. Is this room okay? Liu smiled and asked for puppy classmate's opinion. This used to be my bedroom, but I thought it was a bit small, so I turned it into a guest room. Liu walked around the room once, finally stopping in front of the cabinet next to the window before replying, I think this room is plenty big. After the little puppy spoke, he then noticed the picture frames on the cabinet. Ben pointed at it and smiled. Oh, there are even pictures of you as a child here. This black-haired person is your older brother, right? You look so alike. In the picture were 3 children. The 2 Liu brothers smiled exactly the same. You could tell they were from the same fox den. In the middle stood a child with long hair, wearing a pretty blue dress. The little puppy looked at Liu's brother, then pointed towards the child in the middle, and asked, who is this little girl? Could it be a childhood sweetheart or something? Childhood friend, yes, but not a sweetheart. Liu came up behind Li Yu and explained with a smile, that's the child of my parents' close friend. We grew up together, and besides, that's a boy. A boy? The little puppy raised an eyebrow slightly, his expression not entirely convinced. That's right. Liu nodded, confirming once again that it was a boy, so it doesn't count as a childhood sweetheart at all. You don't have to be jealous. Oh my, why does it sound like he's spoiling and coaxing his little boyfriend? But who would be jealous? The carefree Li Yu jumped onto the soft bed beside him. While enjoying himself, the puppy kept praising, sleeping on such a big bed must be wonderful. This room is amazing. Liu turned his head to look at Li Yu. Seeing the little puppy comfortably lying on the bed, he couldn't help but tease him. My bedroom is actually right next door, you know. So what? Li Yu, who was happily rolling around, suddenly sat up alertly upon hearing this. Every time he heard about sleeping near this cunning fox, the puppy felt like he was about to pull some trick. Li Yu wasn't wrong. That fox named Liu really was up to something. Seeing the little puppy wary of him, Liu immediately put on a disarming face. He clasped his hands and blinked his big round eyes, acting cute and coy. So tonight, a Christmas fox will sneak through the chimney, crawl into your blanket to get a gift, and then you can pet him all you want. Oh God, the little puppy's mouth hung open, his face screaming, what? Hey, what chimney leads straight into my blanket, huh? Looking at the fox's face, the puppy just wanted to jump up and punch him a few times. This pervert is really no good. Li Yu angrily fell back onto the bed. He put his feet up like a boss and whistled, saying, since you've said that, I'll lock the door. Now you have nothing to threaten me with. Anyway, I've confessed to my brother, so I'm not afraid. Oh, is that so? The puppy thought that would shut Liu up, but instead, he pulled out his phone, found the class group chat, and said, "Then I'll publicly post that you're a dogkin in the class group. Let's see how everyone reacts." Damn this sinister, deceitful guy. Li Yu's hair stood on end when he heard that. He hurriedly jumped over to stop him. "No way, are you serious?" Liu turned his head with a sly grin, about to say something, but before he could open his mouth, his foot was accidentally stepped on by the little puppy. Ling, the little puppy, stepped on Liu's foot, but he himself was the one who tripped. As he fell, he instinctively grabbed onto Liu's shirt, and just like that, pulled him down onto the bed with him. At that moment, Ling, who had appeared in front of the room at some point, saw the door was ajar. She knocked lightly twice as a formality, then poked her head in and called, "Liu, can you come downstairs?" The rest of her words were quickly swallowed, when she saw the suggestive pushing and pulling, scene of the two boys in the room. "Sorry to bother you." "What do you mean, bother? Miss, you've got a huge misunderstanding. We were just messing around. We weren't doing anything." The little puppy wanted to scream out an explanation to clear things up, but Ling, blushing, raised a hand to cover her eyes. She tactfully and understandingly backed away, preparing to close the door for the two boys to continue their business. Liu saw her reaction and broke into a cold sweat. He quickly turned his head and asked, "What did you want to tell me?" Li Yu's face was also bright red. However, he had already proclaimed his innocence many times. Saying it again now would just be futile. Ling's face was still flushed. She didn't dare to look where she shouldn't, so she smiled brightly and quickly said, Master and Madam are back. You can come downstairs for dinner." "Okay." The situation was too awkward and embarrassing. Hearing that they could go downstairs to ease the shame, the two boys, without planning it, raised their hands in a gesture. "Okay," indicating they would be down right away. The dining table was filled with delicious and eye-catching food. They called it a birthday party, but in reality, Liu's family was just having a peaceful and cozy meal. Together, the atmosphere at the dinner table, thanks to Li's presence, had become much more cheerful. My, dear, it's rare for our Liu to bring a classmate home to visit." Dad Liu smiled gently at Liu, who was sitting opposite him. Beside them, Mom Liu was busy putting food into the little puppy's bowl. As she served him, she beamed and said, "Make yourself at home, dear. Eat up. You're such a good boy." The more Mom Liu looked at Liu, the more she liked him. "If only we had a son as adorable as you. That would be wonderful. Hurry, eat up." While the little puppy was blushing from the compliments, he shyly kept saying, "Thank you." Liu, feeling a bit left out, poked his head over and asked, "Am I not adorably?" The cunning fox asked, but his mom didn't even bother to answer. After piling food high in the little puppy's bowl, she leaned in and whispered to the sweet boy, "Did Liu pay you to come here? This must be hard on you." Mom whispered, but everyone heard it clearly. Liu, sitting next to them, was speechless after hearing that. "Do you really think I can only pay people to pretend to be my friend? Good heavens, Mom. Just how bad do you think your son is?" Liu was also startled by Mom Liu's words. He quickly spoke up to explain. No, that's not it, ma'am. Mama Gloss. Ma'am, I came because I wanted to spend Liu's birthday with him. That's why I came. Actually, I was tricked into coming, but in front of his parents, the little puppy couldn't say that. Besides, saying it would totally embarrass Liu. Really? Is that true? The little puppy was so considerate, it moved Mom and Dad Liu deeply. While his mom covered her mouth in disbelief, Dad Liu held her hand and said tearfully, "Honey, our son has finally..." What kind of drama is this?" Liu looked at the mom and dad opposite him, breaking out in a cold sweat. Luckily, at that moment, Ling and Yu pushed in a cake cart, saving the little puppy from the embarrassing situation. "Hurry up and make a wish." Liu stopped looking at Liu's parents and turned to urge him. Liu hummed in response. Then, he began to make his wish. "I hope everyone I know stays safe and healthy." After Liu made his wish, he blew out the candles on the cake in one breath. Liu, sitting next to him, watched his reaction. He felt that, in front of his parents, the cunning fox seemed much more serious and proper. As soon as the candles were blown out, Mom Liu beamed and told him to quickly open his present. "This is our coming-of-age gift to you." Dad Liu didn't say anything, but you could tell from his smile that he was also very expectant. Listening to his parents, Liu quickly opened the gift box on the table. Liu, sitting beside him, watched his movements. When he saw the car key fob in Liu's hand, the little puppy was shocked. "A gift? And it's a car? Is this the life of the rich?" Liu was unaware of the little puppy's thoughts. Towards the gift of a car, he was rather indifferent. He just softly thanked his parents. Hearing her son's thanks, Mom Liu's smile faded, and she said seriously, "From today on, you're an adult. Forget the unpleasant things from the past. Live your life the way you want, okay?" "Yes." Liu silently tightened his grip on the gift in his hand. He lowered his head and obediently responded. The atmosphere, which was cheerful just a moment ago, suddenly became quiet after the gift exchange. It was somehow strange. Liu, sitting beside him, noticed the expression on Liu's face. For some reason, he felt a little worried. A family dinner passed by in a very strange atmosphere. By the time Li Yu returned to the guest room, showered, and changed into his pajamas on the bed, his stomach began to rumble in protest. The gurgling sounds, echoing in the room, made Li Yu break into a cold sweat. However, this wasn't his home, so the little puppy could only lie sprawled out on the bed, waiting for the hunger to pass. Just as Li Yu was battling his hunger with willpower, a knock came from outside the door. Ling poked her head in and caringly asked, "Are you asleep yet?" "Not yet." Li Yu didn't know why Ling was looking for him, but he quickly sat up. Then, a cart of food appeared before him, looking incredibly delicious. Ling explained gently as she pushed the food in. "Liu noticed you were shy during dinner, so he specifically asked me to prepare a late-night snack for you." "Oh my, this is too much trouble for you." That's what Liu said out loud. But from his sparkling eyes and the drool about to escape his mouth, you could tell how much the little puppy was craving it. "Don't be polite. You're our valued guest." Ling smiled as she stood by, watching the little puppy eat his late-night snack. As Li Yu ate heartily, he thought, revealing my appetite in front of others is really embarrassing. There's something… The reason Ling hadn't left was because she had something to say. Watching the little puppy eat so happily, she blushed and fiddled with her fingers. She gathered her courage and asked, "Are you and Liu dating?" "Huh?" He was just eating. What on earth was this maid saying? Li Yu still had rice in his mouth. Hearing her words, he didn't know whether to swallow or spit it out. In an instant, the little puppy's face was covered in sweat. "We're really just friends." Faced with a difficult question, Li Yu finished his food at the fastest speed of his life. Finally, he sat on the bed with Ling, face to face, for a heart-to-heart. Well, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding." Ling was extremely embarrassed too. Knowing she had misunderstood, her face was incredibly stiff. Smiling and sweating, Ling added, "But still, with you two being like that, this is the first time I've seen Liu act so badly, so that means you're still very special to him, right?" That's what Ling said out loud, but internally she was squealing. They aren't even dating, and these two kids are already tumbling on the bed. It's truly an eye-opener. The nosy maid made Li Yu break out in a cold sweat. He could only laugh nervously and say, "Are you complimenting me?" Of course it wasn't a compliment. However, Li Yu didn't care about that. He was just a bit curious, and since Ling was here, the little puppy boldly asked, "There's something. What was with the atmosphere at the dinner table earlier?" It wasn't because of me, was it?" "Of course not. Don't overthink it." Ling frantically waved her hands. "Actually, it's just a family matter." Hearing there was drama, the little puppy had to listen in. He leaned his ear towards Ling and asked, Can I hear it?" "Actually, Ling had only heard about this from you." She sweated and said in a low voice, "When they were young, the master and madam built their business from scratch. They went through a lot of hardships, so they're very afraid their children won't be able to maintain the family fortune, causing a lifetime of hard work to go down the drain. So, they are very strict in educating young master Liang Yin and Liu, especially the madam. She felt that having children hindered her career. That's why she turned to place her expectations on her two sons, hoping they could complete her career for her. However, after young master Liang Yin grew up, he entered a rebellious phase. No one could control him. Therefore, the madam placed all her attention on Liu." Ling paused here for a moment. Then she lowered her voice and continued, "I heard that Liu had to spend a year learning high society etiquette before starting elementary school. He learned horseback riding, golf, and even joined the military cadets." "Oh." The little puppy's eyes went wide and his mouth dropped open as he listened. "No wonder he's already of age now. It must be because he started school a year later than usual, right?" "That's right." Since she had already started the story, Ling comfortably told him everything. You could say, Liu was raised in a preset mold. The madam always demanded that he do everything perfectly. Liu's childhood was like a little fox trapped in a cage. Every day, he heard his parents tell him, "You must be sensible and obedient. Please understand our intentions. Studying is the most important thing. You are my son, so you must do everything perfectly. Learning how to behave is the most basic thing. If you lose face, your parents lose face too. Do you understand?" Haunted by his parents' shadow from a young age, as Liu grew up, he always suppressed his true self, becoming a perfect machine. On the outside, he appeared considerate, but on the inside, he was cold and detached. As a maid in the house, every time Ling mentioned the master's family affairs, she couldn't help but sigh. As for young master Liang Yin, after he refused to be controlled by his parents, his reaction was even stronger. He became wild and lowered his moral standards. If you compare Liu and Liang Yin, they are complete polar opposites. Hearing the story left a heavy feeling in his heart. Liu's ears drooped sadly. "I see him looking so happy all day. I had no idea." Ling saw that her story had made the valued guest sad. Ling immediately giggled and tried to smooth things over, because all of that is basically in the past. A few years ago, the master and madam, they began to rethink their approach to raising their children. Besides, although young master Liang Yin is playful, he is capable of handling the family business. With an heir, the master and madam are more at ease, so they don't control their children as tightly as before. Rich people drama never fails to be moving. After hearing everything, Liu had to let out a long sigh. So, I kind of understand what was said at the dinner table now. Seeing the little puppy sigh in relief, Ling also felt much lighter. She quickly said, "Anyway, seeing Liu getting better and better now, and starting to make friends, we are truly very happy." Ha 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 ha, you may be happy, but I can't be. Speaking of making friends, the little puppy's smiling mouth twisted. Outwardly, he said, "That's right," but inwardly, he was silently complaining. You guys just don't know. In the beginning, I was also forced to become friends with him. The little puppy was suffering but couldn't say it. However, just as he was thinking of the cunning fox, he appeared at the door. Seeing the room door open, the fox poked his head in and asked, "Little puppy, are you full?" "I'm full. And don't call me little puppy." Any bit of sympathy Liu had for Liu vanished completely after those words. Seeing the young master arrive, Ling tactfully pushed the cart out. Before leaving, she blushed and wished them a good night. Who knows what naughty thoughts were going through her head. After Ling left, Liu entered the room. As he sat down, Liu stood up, opened the wardrobe, and took something out. "Right. This." As he spoke, he tossed a bag with a Santa Claus print over to Liu. "It's a birthday present. Congratulations on coming of age." The cunning fox didn't expect to receive a gift from the little puppy. He beamed and said thank you. As he opened the gift bag to see what was inside, he said cheerfully, "Waiting until after the party to give it to me. You wanted to give it to me privately, huh? Trying to surprise me? I didn't think you were so thoughtful." Liu was extremely embarrassed by the fox's flattery. The little puppy blushed and turned his head away, unable to look directly at him. He could only grit his teeth and say, "That's not it. I just felt it wasn't a good time to give it to you." Well, the little puppy wanted to give it to him earlier, but the gift from Liu's parents was so extravagant. As for his gift, it was better not to compare. Liu rummaged around for a moment, and finally pulled a fox-shaped keychain out of the cloth bag. It was super cute. I have to say, this plush fox looked exactly like Liu's true form, although it looked a tiny bit chubby. "Is this all there is?" Liu pouted, feigning disappointment. "This isn't enough." Little Liu watched him twirl that plush fox and felt so annoyed. He put his hands on his hips and glared at Liu, angrily scolding him. "If you're not satisfied, you don't have to say it out loud. I specially picked this out. It's precious, you know." Oh, who said I'm not satisfied with this gift?" The fox's meaning was that it was too little. As for the other gifts, he'd just have to take them himself. Liu swiftly grabbed the little puppy's hand and pulled him closer. Without giving Liu a chance to react, he pushed him onto the bed. He leaned down and whispered, "Give me a few more presents, okay? Birthday plus Christmas. It's not too much to ask for more than one gift, right?" From the sound of it, you could tell what this fox was planning. The little puppy was so tired. However, he knew he couldn't escape. In the end, he could only sweat and say with resignation, "Whatever you want. It's not like I have the right to refuse anyway." Seeing the little puppy lying on the bed, eyes closed in heroic resignation, Liu suddenly felt damn embarrassed. "Could you please not act like you're going to the executioner's block?" That's what he said. But since the little puppy didn't resist, he was even happier. He immediately jumped up and hugged the little puppy tightly. Liu blushed and lay still, letting him hug him, but his small mouth couldn't help but complain. "What? Do you want me to welcome you with a smile?" "A smile isn't necessary." Liu leaned into Liu's ear. Blushing, he murmured, teasing the little puppy. "But isn't it because you feel comfortable, and your heart beats fast? From the pheromones that you came here? Isn't that a happy thing?" "You're happy, but I'm not." The little puppy blushed and shot a sideways glance at the sly fox behind him. "It's just a physiological reaction." His words were tough, but the closer Liu got, the more easily the little puppy could feel his breath, and the more he felt it, the redder his face became. Liu could feel the heart of the person in his arms beating very fast, but he was so stubborn, it made him want to tease him more. Without a word, the fox leaned down and gently licked the nape of the little puppy's neck. Suddenly feeling that soft tongue touch his skin, Liu shivered, and his eyes widened. "Why did you lick me, you pervert?" The little puppy, bright red, turned his head to scold the fox behind him, but the puppy could scold all he wanted. Liu still replied matter-of-factly, "Doing this makes the pheromones stronger. Who knows if the two kids locked the door properly, daring to mess around in the room like this." After speaking, the sly fox flipped over and pinned Liu to the bed. He reached out to touch and feel him up. This position was both suggestive and embarrassing. At first, the little puppy was just blushing. Now, his entire ears and neck were also bright red. He tried to resist, but it was no use. In the end, he could only murmur a complaint. "What's so interesting about this?" "Scenting. My pheromones doesn't give you any feeling." "Who says it doesn't?" Liu didn't bother to answer, but instead buried his face in the little puppy's neck, inhaling deeply. Just looking at his reaction, you could tell how amazing scenting the puppy was, how ecstatic. Liu lay still, letting him scent him. Although he didn't say it out loud, the little puppy felt that if this kept up, it was as if he was about to be eaten. Sooner or later, he'd be eaten clean. Right now, This cunning fox is craving the scent of a dog. One fine day in the future, if he craves dog meat too, he'll just eat the little puppy, won't he? Liu took a few deep breaths to satisfy his craving. Only then was he willing to lift his head and answer Liu's earlier question. I already told you, it feels like eating an apple pie. Besides, it makes you feel very happy. Your heart feels all tingly and restless. Why does that sound like he's high on something? Liu turned his head and pushed away the face of the drooling fox. The more Liu was pushed away, the more he wanted to scent him. He was drooling and babbling. I'm totally addicted to puppies. Is he addicted to puppies? Or is he addicted to Liu? The little puppy didn't have time to ask himself these questions right now. Resisting was pointless, and he couldn't win anyway. In the end, he could only say tiredly, "You've scented enough, haven't you? If someone sees this, they'll misunderstand again. Between friends, you shouldn't do things like this." Who says? Liu shamelessly moved closer and whispered in the little puppy's ear. I heard that good bros can even help each other out, you know. Oh, damn, this was beyond the scope of the little puppy's understanding. The puppy's mind was too innocent. After hearing this, his eyes felt like they were about to cross. No way, I would absolutely never do that. Liu tensed up every hair on his body, clamped his tail shut, and shouted, blushing. Liu saw the puppy's over-the-top reaction and also broke into a sweat. I only heard about it. I have no intention of trying it. Why are you freaking out? He had teased his friend enough for now. In the end, Liu didn't have the heart to tease the puppy too much. He leaned down, stroked his classmate's hair, and said, all right, let's get to bed early. Anyway, thank you for coming to celebrate my birthday. I think this is the first time a friend has come to celebrate my birthday with me. Why does that sound so pathetic? Liu was cautiously holding his pants up, but after hearing those words, he suddenly felt Liu was pitiful. If you behaved a little more normally, you'd definitely have more friends in the future, the little puppy advised gently, but the cunning fox fundamentally wasn't listening. If even a pervert can make friends, then why should I be normal? Damn, I thought he'd say something else. But with that, he's beyond sympathy. Liu's kindness was treated like a joke by this fox. He angrily turned around and kicked the fox's butt, kicking him off the bed. He didn't forget to curse. Get out, you pervert. I need to wash up and go to sleep. If you're kicking me out, then I'll go. Liu opened the door and left, leaving behind only a good night. After leaving the little puppy's room, he finally had the mood to admire the plush fox in his hand. This thing was as cute as him. Liu liked it very much. He finally decided to hang it on his backpack. As the night deepened, the little puppy, who was fast asleep, suddenly woke up in a daze. He felt his throat was a bit dry, so he fumbled, rubbing his eyes as he climbed out of bed, intending to find some water to drink. The guest room was upstairs. The little puppy wasn't familiar with the layout of the mansion. At night, everyone was asleep. It was pitch black all around, so he couldn't get his bearings. The puppy tiptoed down the stairs, roughly feeling his way to the kitchen, then went down on light feet. At that same time, Liu's troublemaker of a brother happened to get out of the car, completely wasted, and entered the house. Today the alcohol Liang Yin drank had a strong aftertaste, so his head was already starting to hurt. He was stumbling as he walked. However, as soon as he entered the house, big bro, the fox heard a faint rustling sound coming from the kitchen, a barely audible rustle. Liang Yin didn't know what that sound was, but a strange sound in the kitchen in the middle of the night sobered him up by more than half. He quickly hurried over to check it out. Meanwhile, Liu was drowsily drinking water. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps, which startled him. The puppy vigilantly turned his head to look, just in time to see Liang Yin aggressively storming towards him. The two of them, four eyes, locked, and without planning it, they both broke out in a sweat. A thief. Liu's first reaction after seeing the thief was to find a weapon. However, that was just a thought. Because the little puppy himself was trembling too much, so before he could even move, he was pounced on and grabbed by the collar by Liang Yin. The little puppy was caught off guard. Before he could even scream, Liang Yin pinned him directly onto the kitchen counter, fiercely gripping his hand and questioning him. Where did this sloppily dressed little thief come from? Trying to steal food, huh? Liu, being mistaken for a thief, broke out in a sweat. He glanced at Liang Yin and retorted sharply, let go. How dare you falsely accuse me? You're the one breaking into someone else's house in the middle of the night. What the hell are you talking about? After attacking the guy, Liang Yin now felt that something was wrong. He turned the little puppy's face to get a better look. No matter how he looked, this was a stranger. Why does he talk like he owns the place? This is my house. Liu was hit by the strong smell of alcohol, coming from Liang Yin, almost making him faint. He broke a sweat, staring wide-eyed at the person in front of him. Now, looking at him up close, the puppy noticed. This guy's face looked like the black-haired kid in the photo he saw this afternoon. Hey, are you Liu's gaga? After struggling for a while, the little puppy now realized it was just a misunderstanding. However, after confirming this person was Liu's older brother, the little puppy had another realization. Why, upon seeing him, he felt a sense of familiarity, and also dislike, because he's the same type of person as that fox named Liu. Who are you? Hearing the kid beneath him know his identity, Liang Yin stopped pinning him down and quickly let go. However, even after letting Liu go, the young man still had to ask again cautiously, just to be sure. I'm Liu's friend. The puppy stood up straight, rubbing his hand as he answered matter-of-factly. However, he told the truth, but Liang Yin didn't believe him. The young man laughed twice, haha, and reached out again to pinch Liu's cheek mockingly. If you're going to make something up, make it a little more believable, kid. That guy doesn't have any friends. Li, you wanted to clear up this misunderstanding, but Liang Yin was pinching his cheeks, making his words unclear. He could only make a few muffled sounds. The little puppy, being restrained, was getting annoyed. He couldn't help but think to himself, this guy must be completely wasted. Just as Li Yu thought this, Liang Yin let go of his face. Instead, his gaze shifted to the little puppy's thin pajamas. On one side, he pulled the puppy's shirt, revealing a nipple. On the other, the drunkard murmured, but looking closely, you're pretty cute. And I happen to quite like little puppies. What the hell is this guy saying? Li Yu broke out in a sweat hearing that. What does he mean by cute? And what's this about liking little puppies? This drunkard is talking complete nonsense. The innocent little puppy, inexperienced with the world, didn't know the meaning behind the words Liang Yin had just said, but before he could think it over, the drunken fox's next action in front of him was enough to make him understand. From pulling open the puppy's shirt, Liang Yin's hand went directly to his chest. He gave it a few light squeezes to test its firmness, while unhurriedly commenting, although it's a bit flat, it's acceptable. If you obediently come to my room with me, I won't take you to the police station. Huh? Li Yu, his face pale, let out a loud huh. If he still didn't understand Liang Yin's meaning by now, he'd be wasting his life as a puppy. Damn it. This drunken fox is even more of a pervert than his younger brother. Trying to seduce a minor, are you? Li Yu, facing such a messed up situation for the first time in his life, was so scared his hair stood on end. He tried to turn and run while screaming, because I'm a guy, that's why. Somebody help! There's a perverted drunk here. Liang Yin saw his prey about to escape. He quickly grabbed his waist and didn't let go. While reaching out to cover the puppy's mouth, he laughed triumphantly and said, so what if you're a guy? I don't mind at all. Is teasing the little puppy that much fun? Li Yu, caught again, looked pitifully pale. Against this drunkard, he basically had no strength to resist. With his mouth covered and being held tightly by the guy, he felt a chill run down his spine. So scary, my god. He feels completely different from Liu. Just as Liu thought this, the kitchen light suddenly turned on. Liu peeked out from behind and shouted loudly, who's there? What's going on? The sly fox hadn't looked, but when he did, as soon as he peeked his head out, he saw his misbehaving older brother, holding his little puppy tightly. Seeing him appear, the other two just glanced over, with no intention of letting go. After seeing this, the fox's blood boiled. His face darkened. His angry eyes stared intently at the two people opposite him. How much did you drink? What the hell are you doing in the middle of the night? Liu, angry, rushed forward and pulled Liu away. Then, without holding back, he punched Liang Yin in the face, making both the little puppy and the fox big brother break out in a cold sweat. Being shouted at by his younger brother sobered Liang Yin up. It was only then that Liang Yin realized that Li Yu really was his younger brother's friend. He rubbed his head wearily. However, his expression showed no remorse at all. Liu was furious, so he paid no attention to Liang Yin. He worriedly put his arm around Li Yu's shoulder and asked in a low voice, what did he do to you? Are you hurt? I'm okay. Li Yu answered instinctively. This was the first time he'd seen Liu this angry, and he was a little scared. However, this whole thing was really nothing. The little puppy didn't want him to fight with his brother because of him, so he quickly explained, I came downstairs to get some water, and was mistaken for a thief. That's all. As soon as he heard Li Yu say that, Liang Yin over here also quickly waved his hand, indicating that it was all just a misunderstanding, that it was just his mistake. He laughed sheepishly, trying to downplay the situation. But this time, Liu wouldn't let it go. The more he heard Liang Yin's indifferent tone, the more the rage inside him surged. The fox turned and shouted mercilessly in his brother's face, you still have the nerve to laugh? You don't come home for Christmas to be with family? You go out partying and end up like this? And you disrespect my guest? And now you have the gall to stand there and laugh? Liang Yin was originally drunk, and thinking it was his fault, he tried to laugh it off and let it go. Who would have thought his punk younger brother wouldn't let it slide? Being yelled at the first time was one thing, but now this little brat dares to yell at me? The hot-tempered Liang Yin immediately puffed up his chest and yelled back, why the hell do you think I didn't come home? Wasn't I busy out there networking for business? What the hell does a brat like you know? Stop talking that bullshit to me. Who begged you to go network? Didn't you go because you wanted to? In the middle of the night, the two Fox brothers, one word after another, just stood there in the kitchen, arguing up a storm. Their voices were extremely loud in the quiet of the night, and the parents in the house were quickly woken up. What's wrong? Why is everyone gathered here? Liu's mother was the first to speak and ask about the situation. As for Liu's father, one look at his two sons' faces, and he knew what had happened. He angrily scolded them on the spot, not sleeping in the middle of the night. What are you two arguing about in front of a guest? As soon as the parents showed up, the Fox brothers indeed both shut their mouths, not saying another word. However, although they were silent, the atmosphere between them was still very tense. Both of their faces were dark and looked extremely unpleasant. All this trouble, just because of a glass of water. Li Yu, standing between the two brothers, couldn't stop sweating. If he had known this would happen, he would have rather not come down for water. The more the little puppy thought about it, the more guilty he felt. His soft ears drooped down pitifully. The two Fox brothers, arguing, are just like two little foxes scratching at each other. But, little puppy, don't you worry too much. It'll be fine in a few days. That's what she said. But Li Yu didn't feel it was fine at all, especially after they dispersed, and Liu dragged him back to the room. He's even hugging him so tightly like this, which made Li Yu feel even more uneasy. After lying still for a while with his eyes wide open, finally, the little puppy couldn't take it anymore. He had to pat Liu's hand and whisper, can I go back to my room to sleep now? What exactly did you want to do, dragging me to your room? I'm very angry. When the little puppy was lying still, it was fine. But as soon as he moved and asked to go back to the guest room, it made the sly fox furious. He sat up in annoyance, turned his head to stare at the little puppy, and with tears in his eyes, repeated once more, I'm very angry. I see that. But sorry. Can I ask, why did you have to say that twice? You have to tell me why. Liu was so angry, but Li Yu's attitude was so clueless that he couldn't stay mad anymore. He lay back down next to the little puppy and asked him glumly, as my friend, shouldn't you be comforting me? Oh. The little puppy did as he was told. Hearing Liu ask for comfort, he immediately opened his mouth and said, then I'm sorry. It's because of me that you and your Gigi fought. The innocent little puppy made Liu feel completely helpless. What the hell kind of comfort is an apology? Is this even considered comforting? Besides, if we're talking about apologies, shouldn't I be the one apologizing? Liu said as he petted Li Yu's head. I'm sorry that my bastard of a brother scared you. Oh, being scared is one thing, but the little puppy really likes having his head petted. He blushed while enjoying the comfortable feeling of Liu petting his head. While enjoying it, he didn't forget to reply, I don't mind that. So you shouldn't be angry anymore either. Speaking of the brothers' fight, Li Yu immediately got curious and turned to whisper to Liu. You and your brother don't get along, huh? I heard Xiaoling tell me some things about your family, so if you want, feel free to complain to me. Li Yu is so understanding. But regarding this matter, Liu felt there wasn't much to say. Since we were kids, he and I have never been able to get close. Liu turned over onto his back. His gaze was distant, looking up at the ceiling. Right now, my brother has taken over the family business. The burden and expectations of our parents fall on his shoulders. For me, this is actually a good thing. I just find it really repulsive when he uses that to hold me accountable, as if I should be so grateful to him. After hearing the sly fox's heartfelt thoughts, Li Yu acted like a grown-up and turned to pat the fox's head. While patting his head, he offered his opinion. Then why don't you find a chance to talk to him? Between brothers, just talk this little thing out directly. Wouldn't that solve it? Liu blushed from having his head petted. However, regarding the little puppy's opinion, he had to admit defeat. I feel like you're living in a fairy tale. Not all brothers are as close as you and your Jigi, you know? But forget it. Liu, dejected, turned to hug Li Yu. Let's not talk about him anymore. What makes me feel even more sorry is that I let you see me lose my composure. This time, the little puppy was hugged but didn't push Liu away. The sly fox was satisfied, holding the sweet-smelling little puppy in his arms. However, he didn't feel at ease in his heart. For a long time, he had always tried to maintain a decent image in front of everyone. But now, that image had vanished like a bubble. Li Yu silently let Liu hug him for a while. After a few minutes, he blushed and murmured, Hey, there's nothing to apologize for. Everyone gets angry sometimes. He said that on the surface, but inside, Li Yu was thinking, although both brothers in this family are stinky foxes, but comparatively, being with Liu really does make me feel more at ease. Yeah, you're right, Liu mumbled and quickly closed his eyes. After today's events, the sly fox suddenly felt that, ever since he met Li Yu, he had started, little by little, to rediscover his own feelings. Just as the fox was having this sentimental thought, the little puppy's cheeky voice sounded in his ear. Besides, normally, your perverted appearance is even more embarrassing. You should really reflect on yourself. He had only been moved for a few seconds, and the little puppy says this, making the sly fox's pervy side flare up again. Oh, then let me show you embarrassing right now. The fox was a man of his word. He immediately propped himself up and pinned the little puppy down, tickling Li Yu. Being attacked by the sly fox's hands, roaming all over his body, he was unbearably ticklish. He laughed until tears streamed down his face, trying to dodge but couldn't. Finally, he could only scream in surrender. Oh, stop it, I'm ticklish. As soon as Li Yu finished speaking, he turned his face, and saw Liu's face right next to his. The two of them were now inches apart, their four eyes meeting. In an instant, the air became sizzling hot. The two kids blushed, staring at each other intently. Suddenly, the hearts in their chests began to pound loudly. Thump, 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 thump. Each powerful, forceful sound gradually synchronized. Unknowingly, the atmosphere between them had changed. Their feelings for each other also became distinctly different. After looking at each other for a while longer, Liu was the first one who couldn't stand it and had to pull away. The sun is about to come up. We should sleep, right? He blushed and turned his head away, finding a lame excuse to get past this moment. Liu, of course, didn't dare to continue. He quickly went along with it, saying, "A good night." The two adolescents shyly turned their backs to each other, but their eyes still secretly glanced at the other. In their hearts, they both thought the same thing. It's normal for friends to joke around and tickle each other, right? Why did the atmosphere suddenly become so strange? A night of adolescent confusion passed. When he woke up the next day, it was time for Liu to go home. Liu followed the little puppy downstairs, ready to see him off. As they walked, he carefully reminded the little puppy to check again, to see if he had forgotten to pack anything. The two of them went downstairs, and as soon as they reached the living room, they heard the scolding voice of Liu's mother, and the fox big brother's yelps from having his ear pulled. After being taught a lesson by his mom, Liang Yin quickly submitted. He hurried to stand in front of Liu and sincerely bowed to apologize to him. "I'm sorry, little puppy. I scared you last night. Please forgive me." Liu was taken aback by this sudden apology formation. It startled him. He was about to say it's okay and let the matter drop. However, just as the puppy opened his mouth, the two troublemaker foxes in front of him jumped out and started talking over each other. Forget it, forget it. Don't pay any attention to this deceitful fox." Liu mercilessly attacked his own brother. Liang Yin also gave his younger brother a dirty look. He quickly retorted loudly, "Shut up, you brat. The little puppy won't hold a grudge against me, right?" Liu looked at the identical expressions of the Fox brothers and broke out in a sweat. He just vaguely said, out loud. But inside, the puppy was now thinking, looking at them like this, they really are exactly alike. After getting past the Fox brothers' apology ordeal, the little puppy was seen off by Liu to the door. "I told the driver to take you home. The car is parked outside. Go on, I'll come visit you during the new year," the fox said with a beaming smile. However, before he could make plans to hang out, Liu had already thrown cold water on him. "No, that won't work. I have to go to my hometown for the new year. We'll have to wait until school starts to see each other again. That's so sad to hear." Liu cried as he grabbed the little puppy's tail and lamented, "I won't get to sniff my dog for the entire winter break. I'm going to have withdrawal symptoms." The sly fox was so pathetic, but the little puppy felt no pity at all. He mercilessly snatched his tail back from his hand and said through clenched teeth, "Then I hope you use this opportunity to keep your addiction for good. Besides, winter break is short, not long." Suddenly, at this point, the little puppy became shy and awkward. He turned his head away, not daring to look at Liu, and just mumbled with a red face, "Anyway, we can still talk on the phone. Besides, if I find any tasty local specialties in my hometown, I'll bring some back for you." The fox didn't care much about local specialties, because at that moment, his eyes were looking elsewhere. There, he saw the little puppy's fluffy tail, wagging furiously. It was obvious he was also pleased but was being shy, just turning his head away. But the puppy's tail had already betrayed its owner. The easy-to-read little puppy delighted Liu immensely. He moved in closer, and suddenly lowered his voice to whisper in Liu's ear. Then travel safely. I'm going to miss you a lot." Damn, this fox suddenly being so gentle for no reason is devastating. After hearing that, the little puppy's head got hot, and his brain overheated. The puppy's head was steaming. It was all because of the sly fox and no one else. Goodbye. The little puppy was too embarrassed to turn back. He just bolted straight outside. Liu stood behind, waving at him. Just as he said goodbye to Liu, while chuckling and reminding him, "Bye-bye, but you're going the wrong way." After teasing the little puppy, Liu satisfyingly went back inside. Just as he closed the door, he looked up and saw his annoying brother standing there, grinning smugly for who knows how long. Seeing Liu look over, Liang Yin couldn't help but tease him. Well, little guy, you've grown up and are even dating now." Liu instinctively denied. "He's just a friend." After saying that, he didn't even bother to stay and turned to go inside. Liang Yin saw his brother's cold attitude, but still enjoyed following him to tease him. "Oh, just a friend, huh? Then is it okay if your big bro pursues that kid?" The fox big brother's face had a wicked grin. Liu usually has the same smile, but seeing his brother smile now, he just wanted to punch him a few times. "You're even going after students now? Is it that hard to control your lower body?" Tisk tisk, just a little teasing and my little brother gets so worked up. Finally, Liang Yin stopped teasing him and turned to toss a box. "Over. Here, a present for you." Liu was wondering why his brother would even give him a gift today, until the pink box landed in his hands. He looked down and saw the words on it and finally understood. Oh, for God's sake, his brother had actually given Liu a whole box of condoms. Just looking at the pink design of the box already annoyed Liu. Without a second thought, he stepped on the pedal of the nearby trash can and swiftly threw the box in his hand inside. This scene made Liang Yin's blood boil. He immediately yelled at Liu, "Is this how you treat a gift from your older brother? Pick it up right now." The two Fox brothers then continued their endless bickering and clashes. Liu was right. In some ways, these brothers are exactly alike, truly. At the same time, Leysa and Dr. Black Panther were at the supermarket together. Seeing the merman sadly walking beside him, Dr. Black Panther couldn't help but ask, "Why aren't you buying anything? Didn't you say you wanted to buy snacks earlier?" To this question, the little merman gave a lukewarm, The more Leysa acted like this, the more Jian felt that something was wrong. His eyes looked at the merman inquisitively. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but lately, he felt that Leysa had become much more docile. He seemed to have something on his mind, lost in thought all day. It's all because of that cursed, cheesy drama. Has the doctor still not watched that movie? If you don't wise up, you'll lose your wife, Mr. Panther. Jian couldn't figure out what Leysa was thinking, so he gave up. He pushed the cart forward, while the merman stood still, watching his silhouette. Actually, Leysa didn't want to be cold to Jian. However, after understanding matters of love and affection, he began to feel that relying on Jian, whether financially or in daily life, was gradually making him feel insecure. The fish thought, if he couldn't meet Jian's expectations, then he couldn't continue to ask him for anything else. However, as soon as the fish finished this thought, his eyes were drawn to something. He couldn't help but walk towards it. What attracts a fish is none other than food. Leysa saw the chips. In his heart he thought, I can't ask Jian for money to buy this, but his mouth began to water. This is clearly a new product. The fish really wants to eat it. I can't round. Though he wanted to eat, Leysa contradicted himself, reminding himself, besides the necessities for survival, the fish absolutely cannot spend money on unnecessary things. He just wants to eat. What a dilemma. Oh, little, inexperienced merman, after watching just one cheesy drama, he's already come up with 49 different scenarios. Oh fish, you poor thing. While Leysa was still having an internal struggle, the Black Panther had already turned to look in his direction. Seeing the bag of chips in the fish's hand, he immediately smiled and asked, "Do you want to buy it?" "I don't want to." Leysa, heartbroken with tears in his eyes, reached out to put the item back on the shelf, and it felt like tearing his heart out. His face was both tragic and comical. Jian, for the nth time today, broke a sweat over the little fish's strange behavior. If you want it, just buy it. Why are you so conflicted? Without a second word, Dr. Black Panther turned his cart around and grabbed the bag of chips Leysa was just holding. The fish watched his action, wanting to stop him but not knowing what to say. Jian, seeing the little fish's reaction, seemed to understand something. He immediately turned his head and explained with a smile, "Are you worried about expenses? I'm your guardian, so I receive a subsidy from the Marine Life Protection Association. You can think of it as your own living expenses. In other words, it's your money." As Jian spoke, he showed the FOT Association's fund transfer receipt to Leysa, proving he wasn't lying. After Leysa saw the information, he finally realized that all this time, the fish had been spending his own money. Well then, there's no need to be shy anymore. Once the fish stops being shy, he'll sweep the entire snack aisle. In one go, Leysa had grabbed a huge pile of things to put in the cart. Jian watched the fish shop to his heart's content, feeling nothing but joy. He even thought to himself, so Leysa was worried about wasting money. It seems his education is progressing very smoothly. The little fish is much more mature now. Just as Jian thought this, the sound of two children playing suddenly rang out beside him. The chariot is coming. Turning his head to look, they saw two little kids playing with a shopping cart, speeding towards them. It looked like if anyone didn't get out of the way, they'd be run over. Hey, be careful. Dr. Black Panther instinctively pulled Leysa aside. At first, the fish was too surprised to react and let him hold him. After the two kids ran past, Leysa stepped back, avoiding the panther's hand. His avoidance was very obvious. Dr. Black Panther finally realized the fish was intentionally avoiding contact with him. Thanks. Let's go. Leysa had no idea that his actions had hurt Dr. Black Panther. He was just acting on instinct. Leaving now, he felt no burden in his heart. It's just a pity for the panther guy. Why did you let your crush watch a cheesy drama in the middle of the night? Now that he's been abandoned, you're just standing there lost. So there really is something strange about Leysa. Jian broke into a sweat and started to rethink everything. Ever since he taught the fish those things, Leysa had started to intentionally avoid physical contact with him. He was the one who taught him to keep his distance, but when the fish actually did it, Dr. Black Panther couldn't help but feel disappointed. Perhaps it's because he knows he isn't special to him, that his feelings are so complicated right now. Jian stood still, watching Leysa's back. It wasn't until he heard the sound of a camera shutter nearby that he turned his head to the side. He shouldn't have looked. The moment he did, Dr. Black Panther spotted a man in a mask and dark sunglasses nearby. In the man's hand was a phone. Clearly, the shutter sound came from there. The man saw the doctor turn to look his way. Afraid of being discovered, he quickly hid. But the more he acted like that, the more suspicious Jian found him. He broke a sweat, staring intently at the man. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Jian felt like he had seen this person somewhere before. If Dr. Black Panther's memory was a little better, he would have immediately realized. This man was the stalker, who often came to secretly photograph the merman that he had previously encountered at the aquarium. Unfortunately, the doctor didn't remember clearly, and Leysa, on the other side, didn't give him time to think. He had already walked far away. Dr. Black Panther could only push the matter to the back of his mind and quickly chase after Leysa's figure. Just like that, the two of them continued their shopping, and the stalker continued to hide in the shadows, spying on the little merman. The pervert, while stalking the merman, was panting like a rabid dog. He took off the mask on his face, panting and letting out a crazed, dark cackle. Leysa, I finally found you. My Leysa, being followed by a pervert, but Dr. Black Panther and Leysa had no idea. After returning from the supermarket, he was now on a video call with his parents. We don't have time to come back for New Year's this year. We'll come visit you next quarter when we're less busy. It's okay. I'm used to it. Just take good care of yourselves. Don't worry about me. While Jian was talking, Leysa, having just finished his shower, entered the kitchen. The little fish initially paid no attention to Dr. Black Panther. However, the sound of the family of three's conversation reached his ears, making the fish stop curiously. The panther's parents were worried about their son, constantly asking if his salary was enough. They told him not to go hungry. They also said if he needed anything, he just had to let them know, and they would send it to him. When it comes to money, the little fish pays close attention, because he himself wants to be independent and self-reliant, not relying on Dr. Black Panther. First, Jian, feeling the concern of his parents, was moved and broke into a sweat. Finally, he could only say, being a school doctor isn't that miserable, you know. Leysa was too busy eavesdropping, so he stood there for a long time without moving. As a result, Jian's parents, through the computer camera, quickly saw his figure. They curiously pointed, asking Dr. Black Panther, the person who just walked by, is that your friend visiting? Jian instinctively turned his head to look behind him. Only then did he realize that Leysa had been standing not far from him for some time. The fish, being stared at by the family of three, was startled and broke into a sweat. Since they had already seen each other, Dr. Black Panther could only pull the fish over to introduce him. Leysa, these are my parents. Leysa tilted his head to look at the computer screen and obediently greeted them. Hello, uncle. Hello, auntie. Mom, dad, this is Leysa. He is. Dr. Black Panther felt a bit awkward, trying to find the words to describe the current situation. Due to some special reasons, he needs my care for now, so we're living together. We're roommates. Initially, the passionate doctor had recklessly applied to be Leysa's guardian without informing his parents. Now, when they found out about Leysa, they weren't angry at all, but instead, were overjoyed. Hello, dear. It's all this son of mine's fault. He never tells us anything in advance. Jian's mother happily cupped her face. Verbally, she was scolding her son, but her expression clearly showed she was extremely pleased with the little merman. The doctor's father also laughed along with his wife. Don't be shy, son. We understand completely. As long as the two of you have a good relationship, that's all that matters. At that moment, it seemed the panther's parents had misunderstood and thought the little merman was their son's boyfriend. Dr. Black Panther was horrified when he heard that. He quickly pushed Leysa aside and stammered an explanation. It's not that. Leysa, you can go do your own thing. Don't mind us. After saying that, he turned back to his parents, quickly changing the subject. Mom, Dad, you've misunderstood. Let's talk about something else. Are you kidding? The little fish, for the past few days, has clearly been sulking at him because of the romantic matters the doctor explained earlier. If the fish were to hear his parents' nonsense, he would probably run away from home. Seriously. The panther's suffering was unspeakable. However, the little fish was unaware of his inner turmoil. Being shooed away in the middle of a conversation made him quite displeased. The fish resentfully turned to look at Jian's back and muttered angrily, I haven't even said goodbye yet. What's with the chasing away? ? Although Jian had taken precautions, not wanting Leysa to hear his parents' misunderstanding, and get even angrier, the little merman was no fool. On the contrary, after being enlightened, he could now deduce many things. So, on the surface, he acted indifferent, but inside, the little fish had already begun to wonder. His parents think I'm his mate. Why is that? Could it be that the way we live together now is like how land animals live with their mates? As he thought of this, Leysa's hand, reaching for a drink, suddenly paused. He didn't understand much about the lifestyle of land animals. Plus, the movie he watched last time had skewed his worldview a little bit, so he couldn't help but think negatively. Like, could it be that my agreeing to live with him in itself meant that I wanted to be his mate? The more the little fish thought, the more confused he became. He clutched the bag in his hand tightly, feeling that the love of land animals was truly complicated and troublesome. Finally, the fish decided not to think about it anymore. Where are you going? Jian was sitting and talking, when he suddenly saw Leysa turn and walk out with a bag of food. He was baffled, and didn't understand. He instinctively asked a question. Without even turning his head, Leysa coldly replied, to throw out the trash, and to the convenience store. Leysa's somewhat strange attitude made Jian quite worried. He turned his head and said to the screen, Mom, Dad, you two go ahead. I'll contact you later. As he spoke, the doctor stood up, clearly wanting to follow Leysa. The couple on the other end also saw their son's urgency, and agreed, saying their goodbyes. Okay, contact us if you need anything. Bye-bye, remember to sleep early, son. Dr. Black Panther didn't even have time to say goodbye. He hurriedly chased after and pulled Leysa back. It's so late, you shouldn't go out alone. Besides, you're not dressed warmly enough. He's wearing such a thick hoodie, and the doctor still complains he's not wearing enough. Leysa turned his head in confusion to look at him, and couldn't help but think to himself, you really are clingy. The little fish only complained in his heart. In the end, he got another jacket, and obediently went out with the doctor. They were walking on the street, and as they crossed an overpass, the panther finally couldn't hold back and turned to ask the little fish, are you mad at me? No, why do you ask? On the surface, the little fish denied it, but inside, he was worrying a lot. The fish thought, before Jian makes any further moves, and before I've thought carefully about how to face him, it's best to pretend I don't understand for now. Keeping a distance from the doctor might be better. Leysa's thoughts? Of course, Dr. Black Panther had no idea about. Hearing his denial, the doctor continued to speak. Because the atmosphere between us is a bit awkward, isn't it? Is it? Is it? Leysa didn't dare to look at Jian, so he just turned his head away and changed the subject. Speaking of which, do you only contact your parents online? Such a clumsy change of subject. Jian broke a sweat, silently judging Leysa's method. But if the fish didn't want to talk about it, then he could only go along with it. That's right. They are both medical researchers. They are usually busy working in another city. They only come back occasionally. Leysa's eyebrows furrowed slightly after Jian's sentence. It seemed he had realized something. So you're very lonely and need a mate. Although he didn't fully understand Jian's current emotions, the little fish had heard his story, and made an assessment, that Jian is a social animal, who is very pitiful. This little fish's brain really thinks too much. Dr. Black Panther broke into a sweat upon hearing that. He quickly turned to make Leysa face him, and spoke to the fish seriously and solemnly. That's not it. You really, still don't understand the knowledge I've taught you. You don't find a mate because you're lonely. Only when you like someone. Do you want to become their mate? Jian said this seriously, but to the little fish's ears, it sounded like he was confessing. Saying these words proves Jian likes him. This flawless logic makes both the panther and the fish break out in a cold sweat. His face now looked as if it had suffered a huge blow. It was terrible. However, Dr. Black Panther was too busy blushing to notice. He was only serious for a few seconds. Now he was shyly rubbing his head and saying, you need time to understand these things, but you don't need to worry about me either, because now that I live with you, I don't feel lonely anymore. Dr. Black Panther, the more he explained things, the further he ran down the road of no return misunderstanding. Leysa, who was only slightly suspicious at first, was now extremely certain, seeing the doctor's current appearance. His face is all red. It's exactly like in that movie. Next, he will probably plan something similar to what was in the movie. The more the fish thought, the more serious the problem became. His internal script had already turned into a long, cheesy, drama serious. He likes me. He wants to be my mate. And then a chaotic physical relationship will begin. Once again, the flawless logic of the panther fish made their emotional situation more and more wrong. No one could have predicted this script. If this panther fish doesn't become a scriptwriter in the future, it would be a waste of his overthinking mind. At the moment a panther and a fish were having a heart-to-heart, from behind a tree on the side of the road, the familiar sound of a camera shutter was heard again. Along with it was a flash of light, so bright it caught both of their attention. Following the direction of the light, they looked up, and were surprised to face a figure in a mask and sunglasses that was very familiar. Once or twice, you might not recognize him, but too many coincidences made Dr. Black Panther immediately become vigilant. It's the person from the supermarket last time. Could it be a stalker? Let's go home quickly. As soon as Dr. Black Panther thought of this, he broke into a sweat. He quickly grabbed the merman's hand and ran home like the wind. Leysa, caught off guard, was grabbed by the hand by the panther doctor when, hey! As the fish ran along, following his steps, he was completely conflicted. Didn't he always tell me to be aware of boundaries? Should I pull my hand back in this situation? While the little fish was pondering, Dr. Black Panther was already pulling him, running headlong like the wind back home. As soon as they got back, he rushed over to pull the window curtains shut. Leysa watched the doctor's reaction. As he took off his jacket, the fish asked in confusion, you seem really scared. Did that flashing thing earlier scare you? But Jian didn't respond to Leysa's assessment, and just warned him, anyway, don't go outside for a while. I suspect you might have become the target of that stalker, that pervert. What's a pervert? The innocent little fish didn't know the scary meaning of that term. Dr. Black Panther was still by the window, carefully watching for any movement outside. He instinctively replied, "A pervert is an abnormal person." "Then what's the definition of normal?" the little merman continued to ask studiously. Hearing this, Jian quickly sat down in the empty space next to the little fish and seriously explained the scary nature of a pervert to him. "Let me put it this way. A pervert is someone who often uses the excuse of loving you or liking you to do bad things. For example, luring you to their home, locking you up, and then forcing you to, have relations with them." Jian deliberately exaggerated the issue, for Leysa to understand its seriousness. Of course, a pervert is a very scary thing, so proper education was needed, so the little fish could be vigilant about it. Sure enough, after hearing this, the little fish broke out in a sweat and started to feel wary. However, he wasn't wary of the crazy stalker outside, but instead shifted his focus to the doctor. So, are you a pervert?" The reason Leysa asked that was because he felt his current situation sounded a lot like what Jian had just described, and if that were really the case, the little fish was a bit worried about his chastity. The fish thinks I'm a pervert," but Dr. Black Panther not only didn't deny it, he broke out in a sweat and stammered, I probably am not, right? Are you or aren't you? Just say it, Mr. Panther." "Oh my God," the more he stammered, the more worried the little fish got. His face was about to turn pale as a sheet. "I'm doomed, I'm doomed, I'm doomed." He just hesitated. The little merman thought, growing more scared by the second. He quickly stood up, hugged himself, and said with a tremble, "I'm going to bed now. From today on, I'm locking my door." The misunderstanding with Dr. Black Panther was getting worse and worse, and yet, that clueless young man wished the fish a good night, and was even happy inside that the little fish knew to be scared and take precautions. What a tragedy. He's really single for a reason. After sending the little fish off with a smile, Jian finally started to seriously think about the pervert problem. If he really is a stalker, then being followed around the house like this is too scary. The next time I spot him, I definitely have to call the police. Time flew by quickly, and before they knew it, it was New Year's Eve. At the Sly Fox's house, Liu was lying on the sofa with his chin in his hands, staring intently at his phone. He had a blank expression, but in his heart, the fox had already cursed the little puppy countless times. This puppy has basically disappeared since he went to his hometown. He won't even pick up his phone. Just as Liu thought this, his video call finally connected successfully. The fox's face immediately lit up. You finally showed up. Happy New Year." Liu had been expecting to see Liu's adorable face. Who would have thought that when the call connected, an adorable puppy did appear before him, but adorable in a different way. Whoa, you startled me. Why did you turn into that?" The little puppy Liu, wearing a cute little red shirt, lowered his head to talk to Liu on the other side of the screen. "I'm at home, so I can transform however I want, right? Also, did you get the gift I sent from my hometown?" "Got it?" Liu excitedly stuck his leg towards the phone, showing off the floral print pants he was wearing for Liu to see. "Thanks, but they look totally hick when I wear them." He gave a gift to a friend, only to have it completely criticized. Liu's face darkened as he glared at the fox on the other side of the phone, and said resentfully, "Excuse me, this is the country style. And the gift I sent for your brother, did you give it to him?" Mentioning this made Liu annoyed again. He resentfully turned his head away and scratched his face. While averting his eyes, he complained, "Why did you have to send him something? I had Xiaoling give it to him. I don't know if he opened it or not. Why didn't you give it to him yourself?" The little puppy was furious when he heard that. "I sent that gift specifically to give you two a chance to make up." The little puppy is so thoughtful, but Liu didn't want to accept it. While the two were talking, the puppy's big brother opened the door and came in. He looked down and said to the little puppy, "What are you doing? The dumplings and rice cake soup are ready. If you don't come eat now, they'll all stick together." "Okay, just a minute, I'll change back right away. This little stomach can't hold anything." The little puppy turned his head to answer his big brother. The way he was lying there holding the phone was just too adorable. Liu, on the other side of the phone, also heard the puppy's big brother, and quickly said, "Don't worry about the relationship between me and my brother." While he was talking, the little puppy transformed back into human form in a flash. He was completely naked. As soon as he transformed, he felt incredibly cold. He quickly waved at the screen. "I'm hanging up now. We'll talk again when I'm back at school, okay?" Liu said he was hanging up, but instead of ending the call, he just locked the screen. Then, because he was cold, he hurriedly tossed it aside, and grabbed clothes from the bed to put on. As a result, the sly fox on the other end, who was about to hang up in dissatisfaction, suddenly saw a sight that made the blood rush straight to his ears. On the phone screen right now was an uncensored full HD image of a part of a pink nipple. The moment Liu saw it, his nose felt like it was about to bleed. He broke out in a sweat, flustered, and thought to himself, "This silly puppy." He doesn't think locking the screen ends the video call, does he? Asterisk. The truth proved that Lee, you really did think that. Otherwise, how would Lou get the chance to see such a beautiful sight? What are you spacing out for, Fox? Take a screenshot, quick. Ahem, asterisk sorry. Got a little too excited. In short, because of his carelessness, the little puppy showed the sly Fox many interesting things, and he had no idea. After putting on his shirt, the puppy started pacing back and forth past the phone, looking for pants to wear to warm up. Of course, Lee, you didn't expose his puppy butt. He was properly wearing boxer briefs. The little puppy remained faithful to his pair, with the dog print on them. As he reached for his pants, his whole body was trembling from the cold. It was a pitiful sight. As for the fox, what he was currently seeing? Nobody knows. Liu reached for the long pants hanging on a hook, but halfway there, he decided they weren't thick enough. So, the little puppy turned around again, walked past the phone, and looked for a pair of warm, padded pants to wear. Meanwhile, the sly fox was blushing beet red, watching the New Year's Eve bonus content. As he watched, he drooled with delight and commented, "It's kids' underwear again. The innocent little puppy has given me more material to blackmail him with." A long while later, the little puppy finally finished putting on his warm pants and thick shirt, and walked out the door. He picked up the phone and stuck it in his pocket, completely unaware that the video call was still on. Lee, you quickly sat down at the dining table. Everyone else in the family was already seated. As soon as she saw him, his grandmother quickly passed him a pair of chopsticks, signaling for the little puppy to eat quickly before the food got cold. His grandfather, sitting opposite, looked at Liu and took the opportunity during the meal to ask about his grandson. "You were on the phone with a classmate just now, weren't you? You've probably made a lot of friends at school, right?" "Yes, Grandpa. I've met a lot of new friends," the little puppy replied cheerfully while eating a dumpling. The puppy's big brother, sitting to the side, heard his brother say this and couldn't help but turn to tease him. Not just that, he even exclusively befriends carnivores. His brother's words made the little puppy's heart jump. However, his grandparents didn't seem to mind. Carnivores aren't necessarily bad. You just need to know to keep a proper distance. As soon as his grandfather finished, his grandmother added, would definitely not hang out with bad kids. That really makes you choke up. But I'm currently playing with a sly, perverted fox. Asterisk. Grandma. Liu, with a guilty conscience, scratched his face in front of the adults. He could only laugh sheepishly and say, "Don't worry, he's a pretty gentle fox. He always looks after me. This is also the first time I've had such a close friend." Liu was full of praise for the sly fox. The puppy's big brother, sitting next to him, couldn't listen anymore, and quickly told his brother to hurry up and eat. The grandparents saw the two grandsons joking around, and joined in to tease Li Hui, telling him to learn from Liu, and go out to make more friends. The whole family was happily eating and chatting, completely unaware that at that moment, through the phone in the little puppy's pocket, a certain kind-hearted party named Liu was happily eavesdropping. He was even laughing to himself, thinking, "So that's how the little puppy speaks so well of me behind my back." Asterisk. You're dreaming, Fox. He was forced by the situation. You get it? Liu was completely unaware of this beautiful misunderstanding. Right now, he was busy flexing, saying that he was very strong, and could easily defeat the fox named Liu. The other family members looked at the puppies in confidence, and broke out in a cold sweat. Everyone would agree that the puppy was cute. But strong? Never mind. Just eat. It's better not to think about it. Never mind the puppy's family. Even the sly fox felt speechless. He had originally thought the little puppy was speaking well of him, but who knew? In the end, he still had to praise himself, to be satisfied. The fox angrily disconnected the call, silently holding a grudge against the little puppy. No need to eavesdrop on the bad-mouthing part. Asterisk. When school starts, asterisk, I'll have to teach that little puppy a lesson. Asterisk. After eavesdropping for a while, he realized it was getting late. Liu covered his mouth and let out a big yawn. As he turned his head, he saw his brother had appeared next to him, at some point. And just like him, the fox big brother was also wearing those gaudy, floral padded pants. The two fox brothers looked ridiculously funny at that moment. The atmosphere in that instant, when the two fox brothers made eye contact, became incredibly peculiar. He looked at him, and he looked back. The two brothers were silent for a moment. After a short while, the fox big brother couldn't help but raise an eyebrow and speak first. "What's this? You have a secret crush on me or something?" Hearing this, the little shit fox's blood boiled. He tut-tutted in disgust, finding those padded pants to be a total eyesore. "Why did you put them on as soon as I gave them to you? It's rare for my precious little brother to give me a gift. Of course I have to wear it to show my appreciation, right?" Liang Yin leaned back on the sofa, looking at his little brother with a humorous, teasing gaze. As soon as he finished speaking, the sly fox started complaining in disgust again. "You're smoking in the house again. It stinks to high heaven." As he spoke, he reached up to pinch his nose, his expression showing maximum disgust. "Also, let me correct you. That was a gift from Liu. What makes you think I have a crush on you, you narcissistic pervert? Oh? Liu thought his brother would get angry, but hearing about the little puppy, he became even more interested. Oh, it's that little puppy from last time, huh? That kid has some special tastes, huh? Why would he give us the same style of pants? Liu couldn't argue with that. He could only agree. The fox rubbed his head crankily and said, "'Cause he's like a character out of a fairy tale. He thinks doing this will make our relationship better. But isn't our relationship already very good?" The fox big brother could only laugh it off. Are you serious? After hearing this, Liu's expression became even uglier than before. He couldn't help but remember last time when Liu advised him to find a chance to talk to his brother. I guess now is a chance, huh? Thinking that, Liu looked down at his hands, hesitated for a moment, and finally asked, "The truth is, you really hate me, don't you?" Liang Yin was stunned by his question. He looked up at Liu and asked blankly, "Why would I hate you? We're brothers." The more the fox big brother said that, the more upset Liu felt. He couldn't help but suddenly raise his voice, "Because you've never been close to me, not since we were kids, and in recent years, after you took over the family business, you always used that to pressure me mentally. That was your own decision. Why do you act as if I have to be grateful for it? I don't understand what you want to achieve by doing this. Do you want me to feel guilty and uncomfortable? It's New Year's. Do we really have to talk about this?" Liang Yin awkwardly took a drag from his cigarette. Finally, he gave in and said, "All right, I'm sorry. I really don't know how to get along with you. I basically have no fond memories of you." Liu kept his head down, looking down. However, he wasn't shouting agitatedly like before, but just said flatly, "When I was little, I always felt there was something not normal of everyone in the family. It's not that." Liang Yin looked up at the ceiling. The past is past. Bringing it up now, he didn't feel anything. "I realized it even earlier than you did, that our mother is a crazy woman. But between you and me, one of us had to meet her expectations, right? So before I could rebel, I realized she was putting all the pressure on you, and started to torture you twice as hard." Saying this, Liang Yin let out a long puff of smoke. He recalled hiding behind a wall as a child, watching his mother force his younger brother to study. Liu was young then, unable to bear the pressure. He started to cover his face and sob, but their mother showed no pity, still standing beside him, strictly lecturing him. The old memory is still as fresh as new. As Liang Yin thought of this, the guilt in his heart turned into a single sentence. "To be honest, I really don't know how to face you. It's as if all of that was my fault." The fox big brother stubbed out his freshly lit cigarette in the ashtray. After a moment of silence, he spoke again a little later. "So after I took over the business and shouldered our parents' expectations, I always said those kinds of things to you. But thinking back on it now, maybe I was just saying it to myself. Only then could my heart feel a bit lighter, as if now, finally, it was my turn to shoulder a little more." Liu looked up at Liang Yin. After hearing his big brother's confession, he finally realized his brother had thought about it so much. However, the fox big brother's words didn't move him that much. Instead, Liu dramatically covered his mouth, then cheekily said, "So you actually have a conscience." That damn brat of a brother. Liang Yin was furious seeing his act. "I poured my heart out to you, and this is your attitude?" Just as the big brother angrily wanted to pounce and hit his insolent little brother's head, Liu smiled and looked at him calmly. "It's all in the past now. You don't have to bear that burden anymore. You really do have a better head for business than me, which is why you're handling everything so well now." Pausing for a moment, the sly fox scooted over to sit next to his brother. He leaned his head close and murmured, "Besides, ever since Mom and Dad realized that even after so many years of having no expectations for you, you ended up surprising them, they've started to rethink their way of raising children. Isn't all of this thanks to you? Who wouldn't be happy to be flattered by their little brother?" Liang Yin was certainly no exception. After hearing these words, his sullen face transformed into the same sly expression as his brother's. It's all thanks to me. So, aren't you going to thank your big bro?" In response to his brother's expectation, the good-for-nothing little brother spat without hesitation. It's true that a sly fox's mouth can't grow ivory. After dissing his big brother, Liu didn't stick around to chat and stood up, intending to go to his room. "I'm going to bed. Good night." Liang Yin smiled as he watched his figure, and cheerfully said good night as well. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Liu was about to go to his room, a dazzling light erupted outside their window. Looking up, the two brothers realized fireworks were going off outside. Liang Yin watched the fireworks exploding outside the window, and couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh, it's past midnight." Liu took a few steps closer to the window, looking up at the brilliant fireworks outside. At the same time, as the dark night was covered by a sky full of fireworks, Liu and Li Hui were also sitting on their porch, watching the fireworks. Liu had intended to go to bed, but with the fireworks now booming, he couldn't resist. He took out his phone to send a voice message to Liu. At almost the same moment, Liu also pressed the mic to send a voice message to Liu. Through their phones, they wished each other a happy new year. As fireworks blossomed across the sky for a moment, both of them were looking forward to the new year and their upcoming spring semester.